me voy a dar cuenta enseguida, no se preocupen. Gracias.
¿Ya estás lista para comenzar?
No, Mauricio.
Rosana.
La consulta es que después de la presentación de la señora Virginia García, van a haber preguntas. La persona que va a levantar la mano, tú le vas a dar el acceso para que puedan responder.
En ese momento yo puedo quitarle el mute a los micrófonos y que ellos lo abran voluntariamente.
Ah, perfecto, perfecto. Y alguien me va a decir quiénes son las personas que tienen preguntas. O sea, hay un moderador que me va diciendo, fulana de tal quiere preguntar o no hay moderador en la sala.
Lisbeth.
Lisbeth, ¿tú vas a estar viendo quién pide la palabra para las preguntas?
Nosotros vamos a tener una persona de nuestro equipo en cada sala. Podemos coordinar eso. Podemos.
Ok, como para que vayan organizando, para no tener que estar respondiendo y al mismo tiempo mirando quién está levantando la mano, quizás que alguien pueda ir como en orden, que fueron levantando la mano, darle la palabra a las personas. Me parece que es más ordenado, ¿verdad?
Ok. Entonces, ¿tú prefieres eso lo hacemos nosotros, Mauricio?
Sí.
Ok, perfecto. Y
O sea,
tenemos...
yo estoy pendiente y te puedo decir, mira, estaba esta persona antes, o sea, como tú quieras.
Ok, perfecto. Entonces, yo voy a estar en el cuarto principal haciendo eso. Karen va a estar en el 3 y Daniela Vallas va a estar en el 2.
Ok, o sea que yo voy a estar con Karen.
Tú vas a estar rotando.
Sí, pero digo, el primer cuarto que me toca es el de, la primera vez me toca con Karen, pues creo que el primer cuarto que me toca es el 3.
Sí.
Perfecto.
Liz, ¿leíste un mensaje que te mandé por el chat?
Ya lo voy a leer. No me llegó nada. Ah, por este chat.
Sí. No, por el chat del teléfono.
No me llegó nada por el chat del teléfono.
Está arriba porque se subió. Lo voy a copiar y lo voy a pegar otra vez. Ahí. Ese que te pasé ahí. Ok, gracias.
Más o menos, ¿cuántas mujeres hay en cada grupo?
Estamos esperando, en teoría, según la lista que tenemos de las personas inscritas, son como, creo que eran como 60, eran 24.
Ok.
Estamos esperando a ver que se conecten más. Hasta ahorita se han conectado 38, pero varios somos del grupo, del equipo. Entonces yo creo que hay como 30 hasta ahorita.
Genial.
Audrey sabe que yo le voy a pasar su PowerPoint, ¿no? Rosana.
Creo que Virginia y Lisbeth.
Virginia va a pasar el de ella.
Ella va a pasar y Betilde va a pasar el suyo.
Ajá, y Audrey.
Audrey.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Would you like to change the slides for your presentation? Correct?
I could. It won't If someone does it, it's fine. Just that I'd have to keep saying next.
Whichever is easier for
You
you.
wanna try? You wanna try do it yourself? You wanna set it up?
I don't mind if it's done and I can say next.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do it for you.
Right.
No problem.
Since I'll be making notes, you know.
Okay,
Right. So I would appreciate that. Thank you so
I'll
much.
do it. Not a problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No.
Faltaría Betilde. Que prenda su cámara.
Yeah, it's 10:05, so I guess maybe we can start
Betilde.
and hopefully the members.
Aquí estoy.
Ah, ok, perfecto. Ok. Bueno.
Ready? Well, good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to today
Good morning.
of our virtual roundtable on women in maritime and port security on behalf of the Secretary of Inter-American Committee Against Terrorists of the Organization of American States. I want to express our gratitude to the government of United Kingdom for the generous support for this initiative, to our panelists and participants. Yesterday, we have a very enriching event with all our panelists who share their experience and perspective about the challenge they have faced. But most importantly, we learned and heard their success stories as well. Today, we have again a very unique, interactive, and a special agenda for the day. We will be conducting 3 simultaneous roundtables with different forums led by 3 distinguished and experienced facilitators in their respective topics. The forum will focus on the following topics. Forum 1, social inclusion and diversity. Forum 2, leadership. Forum 3, women in the maritime domain. Our panelists share the importance of receiving training and tools that allow us to continue growing. Therefore, I encourage each of you to take advantage of this tool, this roundtable, and the methodology that, as we have heard, is crucial to continue sharing challenge in the maritime domain and the region for the women. Having this interactive roundtable will also be a great resource to find answers that will benefit all of you and other women that are still struggling for an opportunity. Now, please allow me to share who the facilitators each forum will be. Forum 1, Social Inclusion and Diversity, will be led by my dear colleague, Dr. Betilde Muñoz Pogosian. She is the Director of the Department of Social Inclusion at the OAS. For more than 15 years, she has led missions, programs, projects, and conducted research on issues of democracy and elections and equity and social inclusion, among others. At the Department of Social Inclusion, Ms. Muñoz Pogosian leads work on the inclusion of population in vulnerable situations and promoting the full exercise of their human rights. Among her responsibilities, she directs works on migration and refugees in support of the OAS and their member states. She is also a founding member and coordinator of the Network of Latin American Female Political Scientists, No Sin Mujeres, a project that seeks to promote made visible and empower the work of women dedicated to Latin American political science. She is a regular columnist for the Venezuelan daily El Nacional and for the World Foro Caracas Chronics, as well as a guest columnist in various regional media. In 2008, 2016, and again in 2019, she won the Outstanding Performance Award granted by the General Secretary of the OAS in recognition of her extraordinary work and contribution to the organization. She is the author of various academic publications and opinion columns of issues of democracy, human rights, migration, refugee, gender equity, and social inclusion, among other topics. Thank you, Betilda, for accepting our invitation and leading the Social and Inclusion Forum. For Forum 2, leadership will be led by Virginia Garcia, an expert in communication, leadership, and strategic development for women. She has conducted more than 80 consultancies in 18 countries around the American and Europe. Some of the organizations that have benefited from her expertise are United Nations, OAS, USA, NDI, IDEA International, among other international and multilateral organizations. She has also conducted more than 70 trainings and workshops for more than 3,500 women in Latin America and the United States. Some of those sessions have reached high public attention. As a consultant for the United Nations Women and other, he is responsible for designing campaign, strategic communication, and to promote women's participation in political and leadership. She has participated in international forums as a keynote speaker invited by the European Parliament. The Washington Academy of Fine Arts and Political Science award her on the category of Influential Woman in Political Communication. She is the author of 11 books. One of the most popular ones was translated into English with the title Dancing Backwards in High Heels, Woman Leadership and Power. Thank you, Virginia, for accepting our invitation and leading the World Leadership Forum. For Forum 3, Women in the Maritime Domain will be led by my dear Audrey McNeil, a maritime security specialist. Ms. McNeil is a manager at the International Ship and Port Facility Security, ISPS, with the Port Authority of Jamaica. She entered the field of maritime security in 2005 as an ISPS auditor, and in 2010, she assumed total responsibility for managing the certification and compliance activities on behalf of the designated authority. She is a maritime security consultant engaged by the International Maritime Organization of 4 missions to Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, and Jamaica to train maritime security practitioners in the ISPS compliance and certification principles. Additionally, Ms. McNeil is a lecturer at the Caribbean Regional Drug Law Enforcement Training Center, Port Facility Security Officer, training courses in Jamaica since the inception, and assisted in the development of the PFSO 2-week-long courses. Areas of competence include designated authority, role and functions, and ISPS auditing principles. Currently, she's contributing in the further effectiveness of the maritime program, participating in the development of a maritime security policy and strategy, completed with legislation changes. Thank you, Ms. McNeil, for accepting our invitation and leading the Women in Maritime Domain Forum. This is amazing. We had 3 wonderful and successful women today that will share with us. Well, now that I have introduced all the facilitators, we will proceed to our breakout room. All participants should have received an email with today's link. Please, group 2 and 3 may exit this room and log on into your assigned link. Just remember that after 3 segments, group 2 and 3 will have to exit their sessions again and log back into the main room. I will be very grateful if you please mute your phone or your microphone. during the event. And also, I would like to inform that we will have interpretation as well. Is there any questions that we can address before we proceed with the breakout rooms? No questions? We will, in the chat, we will share the links for the breakout room. It's in your email, but just in case, if it's a little bit easier, we're sharing the link for the breakout room. Thank you. Okay. Audrey, do you have the link for the room 2?
Your microphone.
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect.
Exit. You want us to exit this, leave this meeting, and sign in.
Yes, you will go to, you will start your session on breakout room, and once you finalize that, you will move to room number 3.
Right. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Yo escucho que I hear, I guess, people transferring out,
Yes.
that noise. So let me know when we're ready.
Okay. Karen, you're transferring to room number 3, correct?
Yes, I'm leaving now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And anyone that did not receive the email, please stay in this room. Betile, I think we can, I believe everybody's leaving. Everybody had left yet.
So we have the group of people who will be doing this part of the workshop. We're ready to go then.
Yeah.
See? Yeah?
Yeah, let's give them 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes? Okay, no problem.
People still.
Because I'm organizing my timers so that I
Okay.
know it's like 40 minutes. At least I get a 5-minute ahead of the final time we're supposed to conclude. And then it would be great if people could put their cameras on, because it's kind of, I mean, I'm happy to do the first, did you do that the first day, Liz? Like more of an interactive, people looking at each other, or it's just by audio? I cannot hear you. You have your...
Yeah, the first day we did have kudos, so we were not able to see, but I encourage everybody to turn the camera. I think it will be.
If you want, or at least when you're gonna speak, so that I know. I see your faces.
Okay. I'm going to mute my phone for a minute. Okay. Okay, Betilde. I think we can start if it's okay with you.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, sure. I'm ready to go. Let me just set up my timer so that I organize myself for the presentation and the next workshop. So good morning, everyone. I'm Betilde Muñoz. My colleague Lisbeth Lori from SICTE has already introduced me. I work as director of the Department of Social Inclusion, where we have the mandate of work on diversity and inclusion, both working with member states on ensuring that diversity and inclusion are, is part of the work they do, the policies they implement, the projects they conduct, but also ensuring diversity and inclusion as a cross-cutting element in the work we do. But apart from that, I also have extensively worked on issues of women's empowerment, mostly on how to ensure, and I'm committed to the agenda of ensuring that women are part of the decision-making processes throughout our region. Of course, I'm from the Latin American region, and maybe I'm more familiar with that sub-region of the Americas. But of course, the work we do, really, we have a mandate for all of it. I encourage you to, feel free to discuss, to share your thoughts. This is a safe environment. The idea is that the learning happens mostly between, amongst each other rather than me sharing information. I think, it's very important that we take this opportunity to sort of share the challenges that we face as women in professional environments, and also to discuss together strategies and solutions. So apart from the experience that I've shared with you, I also have been in the last, and probably because of the pandemic that kept us at home for 24/7, 24 hours a day, every day. For the last year, I have also been writing a lot and systematizing experiences on how to ensure diversity and inclusion and women's empowerment in the workplace, sort of that angle of the work that I've always done, but looking specifically to the what happens in the workplace and the challenges that we face. So I wanted to structure this initial discussion because ideally I want to hear from you. You all want to hear from each other. So I'm going to try to stick to a 12-minute stops presentation. I wanted to review some concepts in equality and social inclusion, so you know where we work at the OAS on these issues, how we work on these issues from the standpoint of the OAS. Then I want to just think of us as women in professional environments, and I want to refer to these cement ceilings and glass ceilings that we face as women. Then I want to review some microaggressions, things that manifest in the workplace as we exercise our own leadership. And I want to refer to the work of a Nordic sociologist, Berit As, who reviews what she calls the 7 domination techniques, or she also calls them master suppression techniques, which are ways that diversity and inclusion are not respected in the workplace. Then I want to review strategies to address conflict and challenges in the job, which in other words really mean how to ensure that as women, we are empowered and assertive to do the work we are supposed to do and deliver the results that are expected from us. And finally, the last 2 parts is, very concrete review of one is an article that I wrote on the 7 things I wish someone would have told me when I was entering the professional environment and as I progressed in terms of the hierarchy in the public sector. And then finally, some recommendations for inclusion that I think have worked for me and my team. And I would always share in these type of conversations to encourage people to lead for inclusion and by being an example of inclusion in the workplace. So first, the concepts, just to share with you that any conversation on diversity and inclusion needs to start
with understanding that there are persistent situations of inequality in our region that refer to, of course, unequal distribution of income and wealth and gaps in opportunities, but also other types of inequalities that result because of people's characteristics. And you know, there's various juridical instruments, human rights instruments that specify which categories of protection those are. But of course, within those various categories, there's always the inequalities that women face and other groups in vulnerable situations face when when accessing to the benefits of growth or benefits of opportunities in the workplace and the like. So ultimately is this disparity or asymmetry in the distribution of resources, services, opportunities, responsibilities, privileges, prestige, and ultimately power. And you're gonna see in the next forum the whole conversation on leadership and you know, us exerting as women in whatever sector you are in. Our leadership, it means you are being comfortable with the exercise of power to make decisions and to influence the work that is relevant to you and that you studied for and that has always been part of your life commitment. Social inclusion in this, on the context of inequality described as I just did, is a process. It's a process that inclusion or social inclusion and even all the realms of human rights, inclusion is a process by which we close the gaps in terms of access to rights, access to opportunities, privileges, and ultimately power, all the things that I have just described. So from the OAS, we work with governments, with member states, to develop policies that, that help promote actually this process of social inclusion so that we improve the conditions that people and all people, but of course, putting attention in those who have been historically excluded, can take part in society. And ultimately, it is also about the dignity of people in the region. Just, I'm mapping out in this slide some of the main factors that may determine exclusion: race, disability, poverty, age, gender, residence, religion, disability is twice, I'm sorry, I didn't edit that. But of course, for the purposes of this virtual roundtable that you have been having yesterday and today too, the focus is on women, but we have to also understand that there is this concept of multiple identities that we have as women that may also generate situations of exclusion in the workplace, or that we have to also advocate for others within the teams that we lead. Looking at our own reality as women in the professional public sector, I wanted to refer to two types of ceilings that have been mapped out in the literature as influencing the way women exert their leadership. Women can influence, again, the agendas that are close to them. The most known is the glass ceilings that they use the analogy of glass ceilings because you cannot really see them. No, these are the obstacles and dynamics in the workplace that prevent women from rising up in the hierarchy. And we're going to talk a little bit of how they manifest in the workplace. It has been used for salary disparities, the glass ceiling analogy, and mostly on the economic sector, but it also has influence, again, in the workplace and how women are able to reach higher positions within a hierarchy. I think that picture that is there illustrates very well what the concept is. And then I also wanted to talk about very briefly what we, at least in the work that I do on women's empowerment, refer to as cement ceilings, which is, let's just say, self-perceptions that are created by ourselves as women. No? Self-perceptions on our capacities, on our possibilities, and even combined with incentives and disincentives that we face as women in terms of the cost we assume as we go higher in hierarchies, and how we tend to over-prepare and even doubt that we, whether we're ready to, even though we go for it and we should go for them, we're always inside our heads questioning whether this is for us. One concrete equivalent to this cement ceiling analogy is what Sheryl Sandberg, the former CEO at Facebook, called in her book Lean In, the imposter syndrome. And she argues, and I agree, that all people have this imposter syndrome or face these cement ceilings, but this is something that, because of processes of socialization, women tend to face more than men. And here's the illustration that I use. Is someone being an expert on imposter syndrome, really doubting whether she, not even accepting formally and openly that she is the expert. And again, this is a result of socialization processes that women face that prevent them from being comfortable with accepting. And I'm not saying everyone, I'm not generalizing, I'm just saying the majority. And from surveys that I have conducted, from anecdotal accounts, and in my own experience, I'm not saying it's all women, but a lot of women, a big majority of women face these cement ceilings or imposter syndrome too. How do these resistances to women's leadership and also not just women, but when you happen to be a migrant woman, as myself, in the United States, or an Afro-descendant woman in the public sector in Peru, or I don't know, an older woman or a younger woman, that these are all manifestations of these resistances. I want to refer to, as I explained earlier, to the work by this sociologist in Norway that mapped out what she calls the 7 master suppression techniques, or domination técnicas de dominación is the term in Spanish, which are ways that the contributions of people from minority groups or other groups that are not the mainstream, mostly men, tend to experience in the workplace, and that I believe we all should be aware in order to combat them and find strategies. And we're going to talk about strategies too. The first one is making you and your proposals as a woman invisible. And again, a woman in the diversity of what we are as women. And this may happen when you're in a meeting and what you have, the examples are the mansplaining, man-interrupting, and the appropriating, which is terms that refer to when you're speaking and another man interrupts you, or when you're speaking and you contribute something in the meeting, and then another male colleague takes ownership for what was said, and the other male colleagues recognize them. Again, these are things that manifest in the workplace. Another suppression technique mapped out by Berit Ass is ridiculing or making jokes, kind of like appealing more on the racist or sexist jokes to sort of minimize the contributions. And then when the person reacts saying, okay, that's not appropriate, then you look like you don't have a good sense of humor, or you're not a team player. Another one that I've seen a lot, I've experienced myself, is the withholding of information, when that you need relevant information to do your work, and that information is not shared. I'm gonna go quickly because my first 8 minutes already passed by, and I have a lot to cover, and I want to actually leave time for dialogue. The double binding, or that whether you are super proactive or not so much, you still pay a price for that. Setting a trap, which is changing assignments or giving you a greater workload, sort of with the purpose of making you, intention of you making a mistake. Blaming and the use of force are other two that may, tension in the work that may be insults, but it may go into the physical manifestations of it. I mean, hopefully we don't get to that point, and there's ways to prevent that from happening. Which strategies we can use? I want to share for those who are Spanish speakers that I recently published a book. A book is available in Amazon called Success in Capsules, Éxito en Cápsulas, where I actually map out some strategies that could be used to combat these type of resistances in the workplace and help progress in us reaching leadership positions within our organizations. But some of the strategies that I believe really have to do with our own empowerment as women in the workplace, have to do with working on our own imposter syndrome, and we can discuss ways, and I would love to hear what you do to combat this imposter syndrome and continue empowering yourself and strengthening your leadership skills. Number 2, mapping actors, finding allies in this strategy of your own advancement and influence and in the work environment. 3, this is a technique, the amplification technique was used for the women during the Obama White House administration, or Obama administration at the White House, where they would, female colleagues and also some male colleagues that wanted to amplify the voices of those who have not historically been the ones calling the shots, would support each other in meetings when someone made a contribution and ensuring that that person received the credit for the contribution. Working on networking, finding sponsors to advocate for yourself in those situations, and sometimes you becoming a sponsor for those that young person who has great ideas and is not always heard, or the different identities that may be in the diversity that may be in the teams that you lead. Calling it for what it is. You see mansplaining happening, appropriating happening, make sure that you call it for what it is. And eventually, if you keep seeing these things, it's always good to document in case you need them later. I will go very quickly and actually will just refer you to this article that I published for Apolitical. It's called Seven Things I Wish I'd Known About Succeeding as a Woman, specifically tailored to women in the public sector. That has a lot of what I just mentioned in terms of strategies, but I would probably add the need for us as women to use symbolism when we are dealing with other team members and recognizing their value, and also exerting our power and being comfortable with power, learning to use social media if your organization allows it, because a lot of the work we do can be shared with others that way, and then the ones that I had just mentioned. I'm going to leave these for your reference because I want to stop now. But I have 8 recommendations that will help ensure that diversity and inclusion are part of part of your agenda as a leader, as a woman in the maritime sector, security sector, that have to do with the use of inclusive language, to have people always at the center of whatever you do, to put together teams that are an expression of the human diversity, to ensure that you have and you naturalize women's presence and their views when you're making decisions that have to do with your own portfolio. Avoid, unlearn, let's use this verb, unlearn biases and stereotypes that are part of the socialization process that we face. Try to promote co-creation of the policies and projects that you lead. Again, I believe a lot on the power of leadership that is accessible to other people and be accessible to others inside your team and outside of your team. And then, of course, being careful not to overdo this inclusion, because that could also be seen as a form of discrimination, and we can talk about this later. And then my invitation is to lead, and at this point to share with me and the rest of your colleagues in the Zoom room what have been your experiences in terms of resistances that you've faced, as well as strategies that you've used to combat these resistances. And maybe, Liz, if you could help me in terms of organizing the discussion, and whoever raises the hand to speak.
Yes, it will be a pleasure.
So anyone wants to share or at least reactions to what I just presented? The idea was that I would do this first presentation to provoke some thoughts of you going back down memory lane in terms of situations that you faced. I think again that there's a lot of learning from sharing our own experiences in these situations. Silence? Wow. I don't believe it. I don't know, Liz, if you know anyone who we may call on to help us get this conversation going.
Yeah. Look. Yeah, I will invite anyone to share their experience and take advantage of this roundtable. Batilda, she's an expert, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of questions there and answers and items. Things that Batilda can facilitate.
Very happy to do. Anyone? Cherise?
Hi.
Thank you. I'm really surprised that no one is, because these things happen to all of us. But thank you so much for your courage to take the floor.
No problem. So my name is Cherise Moore. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I am in the Coast Guard. So some of the issues I would have faced, especially amongst my peers as a ship captain, whenever we would have meetings, you would find the males, they would kind of band together. And at that time, I think I was the only female captain. So if we had meetings to discuss minor things like the routine, it was either their way or no way. So if I try to have an input, I would not be supported, if that's the word I want to use, right? And to push my motion or what I wanted to input, I would have to do it forcefully. And when I do it that way, it's like, yeah, females again, they get emotional, XYZ, that kind of thing. And I don't see it easing up, because I've also watched other senior females in command positions be treated the same way in these kind of meetings. And yeah, is really looked at as, we behaving like the typical female, and that is not the case. We just want to be heard. So yeah.
What you describe is something that we all face. And then what you say about, then if you make a note of it or you push your proposal and idea, then you're seen as emotional. So again, stereotypes all over the place. What I've found that that works, at least it has worked for me, has been to have bilateral conversations. I mean, it's a lot more work on us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Have bilateral conversations to point out that it is not correct that someone's proposals are not being considered as seriously as the others.
Correct.
And then if you use the argument on, does that mean that there's diversity and inclusion is not a principle to the work, to this environment and the work we do? That would surprise me. Then they get defensive and they're gonna want to do it.
Yes.
They don't want to be pointed out as those who do not work on principles of diversity and inclusion. So
yeah,
sometimes you gotta put them in that uncomfortable position and have an uncomfortable conversation. These are not easy to have. And there's also a method to those that at least has worked for me, where you point out the fact, you then say how that personally makes you feel, but you're gonna distance yourself from sentiments and feelings. And you're gonna say, this is my opinion about it. It would surprise me that you don't want to take the proposal of one of the team members on equitable conditions, because that wouldn't look on you. Then this doesn't look good on the work, on the organization where I work. I don't want to work for an organization that does that. So you give your opinion, and then you say, and this is how I propose to solve it. And this is what I'm willing to do, what I will give up. Okay, you know, I will just do it first before we have the meeting, the plenary meeting with the rest. I will just come to you and you know, whatever you can think of. So it's, you know, you point out the fact, you share how it makes you feel, but you say, but I'm gonna distance myself from that feeling. I'm gonna tell you what are my opinions on that fact that I don't see as good. This is what I request to improve things for the future, and this is what I'm willing to give up. That system tends to work in terms of addressing these type of situations. And key to separate feelings from opinions and facts and everything else. And the way to do that is to distance yourself even from the moment. I mean, try to have a difficult conversation once you've settled down and you know you tranquila, then you have that combo.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The other one is the amplification technique that all of us could make more use of, which is finding allies, both female and male before we actually are participating in meetings and ensuring, look, you know, this mansplaining is always happening in this work dynamic. How do we ensure that this doesn't happen? Can we support each other when someone says something that is of value to the solution of the problems that we have to face? I'm not sure if somebody else wants to share anything. Denise?
Hello, hi.
Hi, Denise, how are you?
I am good, I'm good.
Excellent.
I am happy to join this meeting. I am Denise O'Donoghue. I am the third highest ranking female customs officer in Antigua and Barbuda. My superiors are two ladies, two deputies.
Wow.
Yes, we have a male controller, but those two females are the two highest, and then my position, I am the third highest female. In my position, I'm actually a principal inspector of customs, and all the other positions, all the other officers in that positions are male. I think they're about at least 10 male. So I am the only female in my category.
Wow.
Right. Basically, I mean, I am a seasoned officer. I am experienced, and my experience in customs, I've spent like 31 years in that department. I am only 53. And so you see the number of years that I've spent, over half my life. So I have a large amount of experience, and it entails basically looked upon, you're a woman, okay, you have to, you know, even though they know, they see that you're delivering, I mean, the fact that you're a woman, it appears that you have to work so much harder, you know. As my counterpart there from Trinidad and Tobago said, as soon as anything you're looked upon that you're emotional, you know, we women, we like to get things done. We are organized, you know, and so, I mean, the whole atmosphere is like, as a woman, you face, you know, a lot of sexual, you know,
harassment,
you know.
It may be in the form of jokes too.
Yes, yes, you know, and if you take it serious, oh, you're too skinned, you know, thin skin, you know, and all that. But I've always tried to impart on my younger officers, female officers especially, to just work hard, just stay the course, you know, keep your dignity intact, and you will get there. You know, don't compromise anything, your dignity for nothing, you know, and basically your reputation is what counts. You know? I mean, I know a lot of—
That's excellent advice.
Yeah, a lot of women—
geez, this thing froze.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, a lot of women like us, you know, we have our different challenges. and a lot of them are the same, similar, no matter what part of the world you're in. There are other jurisdictions that women are treated worse, you know, and we are coming to terms with that. We are now going at the top, you know, slowly but surely. And basically, we should be helping each other. What I do find at times, sometimes some of your biggest supporters are some of these men. Sometimes we women, we don't support each other enough. We tend to pull down each other, you know, and that's a shame because we have so much challenges. So, you know, we should support our men, you know, as well as if you're a woman and you see your, you know, woman counterpart struggling, you know what you've been through, just give them a helping hand.
Yep.
Thank you.
Excellent advice. I mean, everything based on your experience, we can tell that there's a lot of wisdom there. This is great advice in terms of helping younger generations and then creating that feeling of sorority, no, between women to support each other.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. And I see Karen has raised her hand. Karen, you have the floor.
Good morning. My name is Karen Dunbar, and I must say that I work at the Grenada Immigration and Passport Department. I know the workshop started since yesterday, but I was unable to join in because I got information a little bit late from my superiors, and I didn't get the link. But this morning I received it, and I'm happy to know that I can join. So really and truly, I raised my hand because I'm trying to gather really what the whole idea is about. I know it's something about women empowerment and stuff. I'm just trying to gather what the whole the workshop is really about, so I can make my little contribution and stuff.
Sure.
But,
maybe Karen, maybe Liz can explain to you what happened yesterday and the purpose of the 3 breakout rooms, and then then we go back to you to share your perspective on what we have been discussing. But Liz, just so that for Karen's benefit.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
That she got the information late on the 2 days of the virtual roundtables. If you could share the purpose, what happened yesterday, very quickly, and where we are today.
Oh, yes, it will be my pleasure. And also, I would like to inform you that we will share the presentations that were presented yesterday, as well as the video of the event. So you will be able to capture. But it was a great meeting. We had panelists sharing their success stories, also opportunities in the region, and it was a very, very good event. And yeah, so in order so you don't miss anything, I will share that recording with you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it much.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm sorry you missed the
yes, I tried to get in yesterday and I couldn't because I only got a link Monday. Not a link. I got an email Monday and I couldn't get in, so I had to call my superiors and they had to send emails and stuff. And the day went by and we didn't get anything. So this morning, when I arrived to work, I realized that I can get in now and I just joined in. So my deepest apologies, but I hope I can get as much as possible and I can be part of this great event.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. So, and the idea today was we're gonna have 3 sessions, thematic sessions. This one is on diversity and inclusion, and it's a different dynamic with the purpose of hearing the participants share their own stories of empowerment and rising through the hierarchy in the various environments and work environments and organizations that they represent. Which is why so any reflections you may have on that, this is the moment.
Well, I work as I mentioned, I work at the Grenada Immigration and Passport Department, and I've been working here for the past 19 years. I'm presently a supervisor, so I mean we're part of the Royal Grenada Police Force. So if you know the ranks, I'm a sergeant. And really, I supervise the office the Grenada department. There are two females really attached to two senior females like me attached to the department as well. One is in another seaport and I'm at the main office. My challenges are not much, but the competition is great because oftentimes you see men trying to, overpower you in terms of trying to go up the ladder. But where I'm here, I do not have much challenges because of my job and how it works. There is always room for me for improvement. So really and truly, there's a scope of people under me a scope of subordinates under me that I take care of, I control. And with the people that work with me here, and even wider out of the Royal Grenada Police Force itself, I do not have much challenges. I'm respected, and they respect me, and I respect them. I do my work without favor or being impartial or biased or anything. I do what I have to do. There are two people over me here. Let me see. My boss is over me, and there is one other person that is over me. So I'm the third person, highest in rank here. And so far, it's been okay. I haven't had much problems in terms of any sexual advancements, any disrespect, or any how should I say it? Because you find that everywhere in a workplace where there's a lot of women. But so far, I'm okay. I'm just trying my best now to see how far I can go up the ladder. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing your perspective back in your country. That's excellent. And both Denise's and your views have been very useful to understand the issues that women face, and also hope and perspectives and expectations in terms of women's advancement. Anyone else would like to contribute to this part of the conversation? Florida? I thought, Florita, did you ask for the floor, or Loretta? Loretta, go ahead.
I think it's Florita. She opened a video first. She can go ahead, Florita. Florita, you could go ahead. You open your mic first.
Actually, I don't think she's talking to us.
You have to unmute your mic, Florita.
Hi,
Ahora.
good morning, everybody. My name is Florida Borden, and I work for the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands. I am an acting security supervisor. In my field, I do have a lot of men that fall under me. I have one female security guard, and everybody else is male. What I find in the workplace that is very testing at most days, the testosterone is really high. I have taxi dispatchers, because we work on the tourism and the cruise lines. Taxi dispatchers, have patrol officers, and my general security guards. It's very trying. They try to belittle you, they put you down. It's a lot of bickering. You can't tell me what to do because you're a woman. I've listened to most of everything everybody else had to say, and it's pretty much the same worldwide for all women. It's kind of hard, to deal with, but at the end of the day, if your shoulders are broad and you have a strong back, you just deal with them. Because coming from my previous job, which was a while back, I worked with a lot of males. I was an ex-custom officer, and it was pretty much the same thing, but not as bad. It was worse working with the women than with the men. But I kind of adopted that. I prefer to work with men, but not these type of men, because they act like little boys while they're at work. You tell them to do something, and they just like, oh, I can't do this, and I'm not doing that, and then they jump up the ladder and go to the top, and then they get their way and they put you down. Well, you could do this, or you could do that, or you know, you could handle it a little different, but you know, I think pretty much it's what's going on worldwide for all women.
Absolutely. Any sector, any level is something that we continue to face. And, you know, we have a lot of statistics that show that we have many, many years to go to reach full equality.
Yeah.
But the important thing is, I always say, is to keep working on our own leadership and strengthening our capacities so that when those situations happen, we know how to react. We know we have the alliances in place. We have the strategies already working for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Florida. Loretta?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Because we have some music in the background.
We can. We heard the music a little bit, but now we hear you clearly.
Yeah, I apologize. I am Loretta Mackey, and I am an Assistant Commissioner of Police. Well, I live in Nassau, Bahamas. And so we are celebrating 181 years since the existence of the organization. And so they are practicing for what we call the change of the guard tomorrow. So I apologize for that. But we have about 4,000 sworn officers, career officers in the organization, and maybe about 30% women. And as an assistant commissioner, I sit as a part of the Roundtable as the senior executive leadership team for the organization. It's been a long journey. Although we have 181 years, women were just allowed to join about 56 years ago. And I am responsible for the family islands. We call it, if you know anything about the Bahamas, we are made up of over 700 islands and keys. About 17 islands are inhabited. And so I'm responsible for 13 of them, a lot of responsibility. So I came into the office last year, April, in the middle of COVID. And so a lot of things has been done differently. So we used platform Zoom to do a lot of our communication. I've been doing a lot of traveling to the islands. And one of the main things is to see where the officers are working, their workspace, and where they're living, because we are paying tenants, the landlords, to make sure that they are comfortable. And so one of the challenges, I wouldn't really say a challenge, but one of the things is when I give the officers their assignment, each officer, there's an officer responsible for each island. I found out that visiting 2 of the islands, when they were talking to me on the phone, they would put me on speaker so their wife would hear what they're saying. And so 2 of them, they said when they met me, they said, like, oh, we couldn't wait to meet the woman who is who have my husband on his toes. I don't know if that was a good or bad thing, but she said that one of the wives said that she had to assist her husband with some of the paperwork that he was doing. And he said he felt that he was back in school. It's just that, you know, when an incident happened on your island, you are responsible to send the report forward. And I think the way he was doing it, you know, was not up to par. And I was telling him it has to be done properly for me to send up to my upline. So that was one of the issues there. We tried to, since coming into office, we tried to include females on some of the islands where they never had females before. And the transfer out to the islands is going pretty well. It's just that around with all the islands, and you just have to make sure that everybody is being attended to. A lot of the transition back and forward with officers in the middle of COVID, that we facilitate them, you know, those taking COVID tests. And so COVID-19 has been a challenge. And so we had to find new ways to continue policing the islands. But we have a very supportive commissioner of police who's sitting, and I am privileged and I am thankful to God that I'm serving at this time with the commissioner. He's very visionary. And so he allows you to operate for growth. And if you need any assistance, he's always there. And he's been pushing the women forward, not just pushing them because they're women, but he said that because he see they have the potential and they're equipped, they're competent, he's pushing the women forward. And this is unusual for women in our organization. So I think that would be a plus for us as an organization here with the police force in the Bahamas. But I found too that going back to school, even at more mature age, it was helpful. And even though sometimes persons would say that because you have a degree, you think you're better and all that stuff, it's not that. It gives you more, I believe having a degree creates more opportunities for you, and you're able to make a better case. And a lot of time, not only just because of academics, but also because of your experience and the training. And I've been fortunate as one of the females, the fourth to serve as an assistant commissioner in this organization. And currently we have a female who's also a deputy, and that is the first for our organization that's 181 years old. But women were only allowed 56 years ago to join. So it's been pretty good. But so my aim is to empower the women, encourage them, help them along, giving them good counsel and being a mentor to them. Because as I walk away from the organization, I want to look back and see that they are making a difference and they're holding their own. And for women to probably one day that we have our first female commissioner of police. That's never happened before.
Excellent.
So I'm glad to be a part of this forum. Yesterday, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And today, I was able to participate in most of this first session because I had to go in and see the commissioner. But I'm glad to be a part of this forum, and I want to thank you, Lisbeth. I got the invite very late on Friday, and I had to make a call. I saw a number in the thread, and I made a call, and I was able to participate. So thank you very much for including me. The inclusion is really great. Thank you. And all the information that you are gathering, and those that will be shared, I will definitely share them with my female counterparts.
Well, thank you very much. And it is an honor for you to be here with us and share your experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Loretta, for your remarks and really these words of encouragement. We have actually come down to the time we're supposed to be ending this part of the workshop. So I want to thank all of you for your attention, and I want to thank Karen, Cherise, Florita, Loretta for their contributions. And we're now going to take a 10-minute break, and you will be joining the next forum that Liz has prepared for us. So I will turn it over to you, Lisbeth. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes, so we will take, as Betty mentioned, we're going to take a 10 minutes break, and we will reunite back at 11:15 for our forum number 2. And it will be Ms. Virginia. And also, I want to inform you that there's interpretation. There's like a little icon on the bottom of the screen. You may gonna need this one for the next forum. Thank you, and I will see you in 10 minutes.
Mauricio.
We're taking a 5-minute break until 10:15 before we start with our next panel.
Dime.
¿Hay posibilidad de sacar una lista de participantes
Thank you so much.
con Zoom?
Déjame ver, dame un minuto.
Me avisas cuando puedas, ¿sí?
Sí se puede, pero habría que pedirle a Fernando porque él es el que puede entrar en la parte de administrador, ya que él creó las reuniones.
Ok, yo le pido a él.
Welcome back. Is everyone here?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we're ready for the next session. Virginia will start her forum on leadership. She will be performing this presentation in Spanish. So please use the little icon, that interpretation, so you can hear the presentation in English.
Ok. Lisbeth, cuando me digas, y iniciamos.
Okay, no, I think it's,
Estamos.
yeah, let me see, it's 11:16. Yes, we are on time. We can start.
Ok. Bueno, encantada de estar compartiendo en la mañana de hoy con ustedes. Gracias, Lisbeth, por la invitación. Y sin más, voy a compartir una presentación para luego dejar un espacio para que podamos dialogar acerca de algunos fenómenos a los que quisiera referirme. A ver si se ve bien la presentación. Yo creo que ahí se ve bien, Lisbeth. Perfecto. Entonces, continúo. Mi idea el día de hoy es compartir con ustedes algunas reflexiones y dejarles algunas herramientas específicas y concretas que podemos usar para el fortalecimiento de los liderazgos de las mujeres. Pero antes de ir a las herramientas, déjenme contarles una historia que es verídica y que es real y que me sucedió, que es cuando era muy joven, en mi primer año en la universidad, una profesora ingresó al aula y en la pizarra escribió: López tiene un hermano, pero el hermano de López no tiene un hermano. ¿Por qué? Y en esa aula, que éramos muchas personas, dijimos muchísimas tonterías. Dijimos, porque para ser hermano de alguien no solo basta compartir el apellido, sino que también hay que sentirse hermano, porque a lo mejor son hijos de la misma madre, pero no del mismo padre. Pero a ninguna de las personas que estábamos ahí se nos ocurrió decir que el hermano de López no tiene un hermano, el hermano de López tiene una hermana porque López es mujer. Y esto nos sucede porque existe un profundo sesgo inconsciente que hace que cuando pensamos en apellidos, López, Fernández, Pérez, cualquier apellido, la primera imagen que nos viene a la mente es la de un hombre, porque el apellido es lo que usamos en el espacio público y el nombre es lo que usamos en el espacio privado. Este sencillo experimento lo que nos indica es que existe un muy marcado sesgo inconsciente y automático que asocia a los hombres con el espacio público y a nosotras, las mujeres, con el espacio de lo doméstico. Las invito a hacer un test que es muy interesante, que es el test de asociación implícita de la Universidad de Harvard, que es gratuito, que está disponible en cualquier parte del mundo para cualquier persona que lo quiera realizar. Y uno de los resultados que nos da ese test es que más de 7 de cada 10 personas rápidamente asocian a los hombres con la carrera profesional y a las mujeres con la familia, ¿no? Y que todas las personas tenemos alguna clase de sesgo o de estereotipo de género muy incorporado. Por ejemplo, cuando yo me autoadministré este test, rápidamente relacioné mucho más rápido la palabra boda con las mujeres que con los hombres, pero en realidad se casan tanto los hombres con las mujeres, ¿no? Sin embargo, el sesgo inconsciente, como las mujeres, sin embargo, el sesgo inconsciente hizo que yo relacionara la palabra boda con las mujeres y no en la misma proporción con los varones. Estos sesgos inconscientes alimentan estereotipos y sobre todo estereotipos acerca del liderazgo, estereotipos que hacen que cuando pensamos en liderazgo pensamos en varones. Si ahora estuviéramos en una sala llena de gente y yo le pidiera a las personas que cerrasen los ojos un instante y que se imaginaran una persona liderando, y luego les pidiera que alzaran la mano quienes imaginaron una mujer, serían muy poquitas las manos alzadas, porque la mayoría de las personas cuando imaginan un líder, imaginan un varón. Hay una prescripción de rol que hace que cuando pensamos en liderazgo pensemos en varón, que pensemos que el liderazgo es natural en los varones y no así en las mujeres, es decir, que culturalmente hemos definido el liderazgo como masculino. No es solamente una impresión mía, lo muestran muchísimos estudios. Por ejemplo, el último estudio de perspectivas de desarrollo humano publicado por el Programa de Naciones Unidas para el Desarrollo en el año 2020 nos muestra que la mitad de la población del mundo, aún hoy, en la tercera década del siglo XXI, continúa creyendo que los hombres son mejores líderes que las mujeres. Aún las personas que jamás han tenido la experiencia de tener una jefa mujer o de ser liderados por una mujer, sin embargo, vienen ya con este prejuicio incorporado. Cuando se solicita a las personas que piensen el nombre de alguien que trabaja en un cargo ejecutivo, rápidamente piensan en el nombre de un varón. Cuando les pedimos que piensen en alguien que trabaja en un rol de asistencia, rápidamente piensan en un nombre de mujer. Esto lo hemos trasladado inclusive a la inteligencia artificial. Si ustedes miran, la mayoría de los asistentes, Alexa, Siri, Cortana, que tenemos en la inteligencia artificial, son mujeres. Es verdad que ahora uno podría cambiarlo por default, vienen como asistentes mujeres. Uno podría cambiarlo, pero solamente el 5% de las personas decide tener un asistente con voz de hombre porque nos resulta más familiar tener un asistente con voz de mujer. Esto se reproduce, esta tendencia a que el liderazgo valorado sea el liderazgo masculino, se reproduce en todas las áreas de actividad humana. En la ciencia, en la tecnología, en la religión, en la política, solo algunos ejemplos. A la Universidad de Oxford le tomó 800 años, por primera vez en el año 2015, nombrar una rectora mujer. Se consideró un éxito formidable cuando luego de 50 años de existencia al Foro Económico de Davos, donde asisten las principales personalidades de la economía y la política mundial, 1 de cada 5 asistentes fueron mujeres, y eso se consideró un gran éxito. Menos del 5% de los premios Nobel han sido entregados a mujeres, no porque las mujeres no hagan descubrimientos fantásticos, sino porque normalmente los jefes y directores de los laboratorios son hombres, los que hacen lobby son hombres, y entonces hay toda una red a la que las mujeres no acceden y sus logros tienen mucha menor visibilidad. Le tomó más de 200 años a Wall Street tener una presidenta mujer. Acaba por primera vez en enero de este año de ser nombrada una mujer al frente de la Bolsa de París. Por primera vez, en febrero de este año, la Organización Mundial del Comercio tiene al frente una mujer, y también en estos días, por primera vez, la NASA ha nombrado una subdirectora mujer. Todo esto que vemos en los medios y en las redes refuerza ese sesgo y refuerza ese estereotipo. Por ejemplo, en el año 2015, BIC, que es una compañía multinacional, transnacional, muy importante, para el Día de la Mujer, no sé si ven que ahí debajo se lee Happy Women's Day, para homenajearnos a las mujeres decidió publicar esto en Twitter, ¿no? Que es: luce como una niña, actúa como una dama, piensa como un hombre, trabaja como un jefe. Por supuesto que ante los insultos recibidos, Vic se disculpó, dijo que nunca más nos iba a decir a las mujeres que para tener éxito liderando teníamos que pensar como varones, pero lo cierto es que todo el equipo de marketing, todo el equipo de comunicación, donde hay hombres y mujeres, nadie se percató de esto y nadie dijo, quizás no sea correcto decirles a las mujeres que para tener éxito liderando tienen que pensar como hombres. No sé si se han alguna vez prestado atención la cantidad de publicidades, aún de primeras marcas, que nos retratan a las mujeres como cuerpos sin cabeza, siendo que la cabeza es aquello que tenemos más asociado con el talento para liderar, ¿no? Para tomar decisiones, estrategia, comunicar, pensar. Todas las actividades requieren que usemos nuestra cabeza. Muchas veces las mujeres somos retratadas como personas sin cabeza. En la publicidad actual, menos del 6% de la publicidad muestra a las mujeres ejerciendo algún rol de autoridad, solamente el 3% las retrata como lideresas y apenas el 2% como personas inteligentes. En las noticias, más de 7 de cada 10 de las personas que las y los periodistas entrevistan cuando necesitan una persona experta es un varón, a pesar de que en la actualidad más del 60% de las personas que se están graduando en las universidades en toda América son mujeres. No solamente las mujeres tenemos menos presencia en las noticias, sino que la calidad de la cobertura es diferente. Permítanme presentarles a Yelena Serova. Yelena Serova, tal como su outfit lo demuestra, es cosmonauta, es astronauta, fue la cuarta mujer rusa en viajar al espacio, la primera mujer rusa en ir como tripulante a la Estación Espacial Internacional. Tiene 2 carreras académicas, es licenciada en Ingeniería Espacial y estuvo 8 años entrenando para ir al espacio. Cuando en la NASA dieron la conferencia de prensa para el lanzamiento de la misión que la llevaría junto a 2 colegas hombres a la Estación Espacial Internacional, una pregunta que le hicieron los periodistas fue si pensaba llevar maquillaje al espacio. ¿Piensa llevar maquillaje al espacio? A una mujer que ha estado 8 años entrenando para esta misión, ¿no? O, por ejemplo, cuando en el año 2019 un matrimonio ganó el Premio Nobel de Economía, un titular de periódico decía profesor del MIT indioamericano, Abhijit Banerjee, y esposa, ganan el Nobel de Economía. Menos mal que después la BBC nos contó que esta señora se llama Esther Duflo, que es la mujer más joven en haber ganado el Premio Nobel en Economía, etcétera, etcétera. En otras palabras, los estereotipos gozan de muy buena salud y generan muchos problemas para las mujeres en las organizaciones. ¿Por qué? Porque en las organizaciones estos estereotipos y estos sesgos alimentan ciertas barreras invisibles, pero tremendamente resistentes, que impiden que las mujeres avancen en la misma medida que los hombres hacia las posiciones de liderazgo. Los techos de cristal básicamente son los que mantienen a las mujeres en los mandos medios, pero hacen que pocas lleguen a la parte superior de la pirámide organizacional. Los encontramos en los puestos de investigación, que menos del 30% están liderados por mujeres, en las industrias de tecnología, donde menos del 20% de quienes lideran son mujeres. Solo 1 de cada 5 de los máximos ejecutivos de las empresas de los países del G7 son mujeres, y más de 7 de cada 10 presidentes de directorios de las compañías que cotizan en la bolsa europea son varones, ¿no? Casi no hay mujeres. No solamente en las organizaciones hay techos de cristal, sino que también hay paredes de cristal. ¿Qué significa esto? Que aunque las mujeres rompieran los techos, aunque las mujeres llegaran a posiciones de liderazgo, normalmente quedan encasilladas en perfiles y en funciones relacionados con los estereotipos más tradicionales de género. Por ejemplo, es muy frecuente encontrar en las compañías a las mujeres en las áreas de recursos humanos. O es muy frecuente cuando analizamos los ministerios, las mujeres ministras de gobierno en todo el mundo, ver que a pesar de que tengan una formación técnica, las han designado como ministras de niñez, de mujer, de medio ambiente, de familia, de discapacidad, de acción social, y en cambio muy pocas mujeres como ministras de defensa, de economía o de ciencia y tecnología. Como si ese fuese poco, las mujeres también enfrentamos laberintos de cristal. Lo que significa es que una mujer y un hombre con la misma formación, los mismos antecedentes, en la misma organización, que inician en el mismo momento, a las mujeres les va a tomar mucho más tiempo, entre 3 y 5 años más que a un hombre, un recorrido con muchas más dificultades y rendir muchísimas más pruebas de aptitud de liderazgo que a un varón para llegar a una posición de liderazgo. A mí me gusta ejemplificarlo con el ratón Mickey y Minnie, porque la verdad es que debutaron juntos en las pantallas en el año 1928. Minnie fue ella sola protagonista de más de 70 películas y sin embargo le tomó 40 años más que a Mickey poder obtener una estrella en el Paseo de la Fama de Hollywood. Y también, por supuesto, hay lo que llamamos precipicios de cristal, que lo que significa es que muchas veces las posiciones de liderazgo a las mujeres se las ofrecen en situaciones, momentos de las organizaciones donde hay un alto riesgo de fracaso, donde hay crisis muy grandes. Por lo tanto, desde el inicio mismo, esta situación ya conlleva un riesgo de fracaso. Sin embargo, si la gestión fracasa, no se va a culpar a la situación, sino que se va a atribuir a las mujeres. Se va a decir que fracasamos porque las mujeres no somos aptas para liderar. ¿Qué nos sucede a las mujeres cuando internalizamos lamentablemente esos obstáculos y esos sesgos y se transforman en enemigos internos? Porque hasta ahora vengo refiriéndome a enemigos externos, ¿verdad? A estereotipos, a sesgos, a paredes, techos, precipicios, laberintos, que están fuera, que forman parte de las organizaciones. Pero como las mujeres somos socializadas también en esta cultura, de alguna manera desde la infancia vamos incorporando estos estereotipos, vamos incorporando estos sesgos, y en mi experiencia de trabajo con mujeres líderes he visto que alimentan lo que llamo 7 síndromes. Uno de los síndromes lo van a conocer, no es de mi autoría, los otros 6 son síndromes que fui acuñando a medida que trabajaba con mujeres porque se repetían, eran fenómenos que se repetían una y otra vez con las mujeres líderes con las que trabajaba. Por ejemplo, uno al que denominé el síndrome de la chica inmaterial, porque crecemos con esta idea de que a las mujeres buenas no les interesa el dinero, que las mujeres somos generosas. ¿Cómo se refleja esto en nuestros entornos laborales? ¿Cuáles serían los síntomas? Bueno, que muchas veces no sabemos ponerle precio a nuestro trabajo, que lo hacemos por menos dinero, que nos da vergüenza negociar respecto del dinero o cuestiones operativas relacionadas con el dinero. A veces estamos tan agradecidas porque nos están ofreciendo una posición de liderazgo que no negociamos dinero, utilidades o condiciones, porque tenemos en el fondo siempre esta sensación de que van a pensar que soy codiciosa si negocio dinero, o si negocio utilidades, o si negocio condiciones, ¿no? Les quiero decir que los estudios nos muestran que casi la mitad de los hombres negocia condiciones desde su primer puesto de trabajo, y que en cambio la mayoría de las mujeres rara vez lo hacen. Un segundo síndrome que viene de internalizar los estereotipos y los prejuicios es el síndrome de la número 2. ¿Qué significa? Significa que muchas veces las mujeres nos autoexcluimos de competir por posiciones de liderazgo porque pensamos que si lo hacemos nos va a restar tiempo de calidad con nuestras familias, que vamos a ser malas madres, esposas, compañeras de trabajo, que le estamos restando la posibilidad a un colega hombre, etcétera, ¿no? Hace poco trabajé con una mujer que me decía, yo podría haber sido la número 1 en mi partido político, y me conformé con ir como número 2 en la fórmula, porque pensé que para ser la número 1 tenía que hacer campaña, y hacer campaña significaba estar fuera de casa los fines de semana, y cómo esto iba a afectar a mi marido, cómo esto iba a afectar a mis hijos. Y después de un tiempo pensé, pero si mi marido también hizo campaña política, y mis hijos y yo lo apoyamos. Y además seguramente por cómo es mi marido me hubiera dicho, lánzate, hacelo, porque nosotros te vamos a apoyar. Es decir, a veces somos nosotras mismas las que nos autolimitamos o nos ponemos techos sin darnos cuenta porque tenemos estos estereotipos tan arraigados. Síndrome súper frecuente, el síndrome de no estoy preparada aún. Es decir, que muchas veces dejamos pasar oportunidades porque sentimos que nos falta un poco más, que deberíamos tener un poco más de experiencia, un poco más de preparación, un poco más de capacitación, que ahora no, que quizás más adelante, ¿no? Una mujer que trabaja en una organización donde ella tiene la capacidad de recomendar personas para ascensos, me decía que un requisito que ella tiene es que las personas hayan cumplido 4 años en una determinada posición para poder venir a pedirle a ella la promoción. Ella dice que cuando se acerca el año 3 de los 4, los hombres empiezan a golpearle la puerta y a preguntarle si los puede promocionar. Y que en cambio las mujeres a veces transcurren los 4 años y no vienen a pedirle que las promocionen. Entonces ella va y les pregunta, ¿por qué no me están golpeando la puerta? ¿Por qué no me están diciendo? Y muchas veces la respuesta es, porque creo que debería formarme más, porque quizás no estoy todavía preparada, porque quizás necesito un año más de experiencia. Entonces, realmente a veces esa es una autolimitación. También el síndrome de la tomadora de notas, que es que cuando logramos un espacio a la mesa donde se toman las decisiones, muchas veces nos limitamos a ser las personas que tomamos nota, que llevamos la minuta, que elaboramos el memo con el resultado de la reunión. Muchas veces lo hacemos porque nuestros colegas hombres son quienes nos lo piden, sobre todo si somos pocas las mujeres en la organización, a veces con una excusa tan tonta como, ay, ustedes tienen mejor caligrafía, tomen ustedes la minuta, son más ordenadas, ¿no? No hay nada de malo con tomar notas ni con hacer la minuta, pero les quiero decir que cuando escribimos hablamos menos, que nuestra voz y opiniones se escuchan menos. Esto es importante que lo sepan, porque estamos todas convencidas de que somos multitarea, de que las mujeres somos multitarea, y es verdad, lo somos, pero también hay estudios que nos muestran que cuando nos comportamos multitarea, hacemos todas las tareas un poco peor. Entonces, no es que una no pueda escribir y hablar, pero cuando una escribe, habla menos, y en los espacios de toma de decisiones es importante participar, ¿no? El síndrome de lo preparo yo lo presenta él. Muchísimas veces cuando las mujeres formamos partes de equipo, decimos, bueno, lo vamos a preparar juntos, pero es él quien va a realizar la presentación, mejor que a la reunión vaya él, no quiero que sienta que estamos compitiendo. De hecho, hace poco trabajé con una clienta que vino y me dijo, necesito que me ayudes a preparar una gran presentación para el área que tenemos, tenemos que lucirnos. Dice, la vamos a preparar con un colega hombre, y la va a presentar él, la voy a preparar yo y la va a presentar él. Y entonces a mí me pareció muy gracioso y le dije, o sea, vos me estás diciendo que me vas a pagar a mí para realizar un trabajo conmigo con el que se va a lucir tu colega varón. ¿No sería quizás la oportunidad de que a lo mejor pensaras que los dos pueden presentar el trabajo, que los dos pueden lucirse? Este es el que todas conocemos, que no es de mi autoría, que es el síndrome de la impostora, que básicamente tiene que ver con que las mujeres muchas veces frente a cualquier logro como ascenso, premio, reconocimiento, oferta laboral, sentimos que no es un mérito propio, sino que hemos tenido suerte, que nos ayudaron. Los hombres tienden a atribuir sus éxitos a sus propias habilidades, mientras que las mujeres más a la suerte o a la ayuda que hemos recibido. ¿Y por qué sucede esto? Porque las mujeres hemos sido socializadas para aspirar a la perfección. Es decir, las mujeres traemos una cruel autoexigencia a los niños, normalmente se los cría o se los socializa en la cultura del ensayo y el error, ¿no? Bueno, que se equivoque, ya va a aprender. A las mujeres normalmente desde pequeñas nos socializan en la idea de que lo que hagamos lo tenemos que hacer bien de la primera vez, lo cual es terriblemente cruel. Esto tiene consecuencias. Los hombres se postulan para un trabajo si cubren alrededor del 60% de los requerimientos en la job description. Las mujeres rara vez nos presentamos si no reunimos el 100% de los requisitos. Cuando los varones fracasan en una tarea, por ejemplo, hay una escuela de codificación para videojuegos donde los niños aprenden a codificar, y participan niños entre 11 y 14 años. Cuando los varones se traban en la elaboración de un código o no les sale bien, golpean la puerta y dicen necesito ayuda, hay algo mal en mi código. Cuando las niñas no pueden resolver la tarea, la respuesta más frecuente es voy a dejar de venir a esta escuela porque hay algo malo en mí, yo no sirvo para esto, ¿no? Es decir, los niños sienten que hay algo mal en la tarea, nosotras sentimos que hay algo malo en nosotras. Entonces, esto exige que empecemos a incorporar como normal el aprendizaje por ensayo y error, a soltar la idea de ser perfectas, porque además cuando no lo hacemos eso se convierte en un obstáculo cuando lideramos equipos, porque nos cuesta mucho más delegar y porque nos ponemos mucho más obsesivas cuando delegamos y generamos mucha presión en nuestros equipos de trabajo. Y el séptimo síndrome lo denominé síndrome de la ambiciosa, porque desde pequeños nos enseñan que si un hombre es ambicioso es algo positivo, quiere ser alguien en la vida, quiere progresar, quiere crecer, y en cambio cuando decimos que es una mujer ambiciosa, normalmente tiene una connotación negativa. Por lo tanto, las mujeres pecamos muchas veces de modestia excesiva, de pensar que mejor mantener un perfil bajo, tenemos un cierto pudor de dar a conocer nuestros logros, no tomamos crédito por lo que hacemos o por los procesos que lideramos, y por culpa de los estereotipos de género, entonces las mujeres hemos aprendido a no llamar la atención, a ocultar o a desvalorizar nuestros logros. Hay un test que a mí me parece muy significativo, que se los administran tanto a hombres como a mujeres líderes, que es muy sencillo y consta de una única pregunta. La pregunta del test es, si pudieras elegir un único superpoder, de todos los superpoderes que existen, si pudieras elegir un único superpoder, ¿qué poder elegirías? ¿Qué superpoder elegirías? La gran mayoría de los hombres contestan volar. Yo elegiría el poder de volar. La mayoría de las mujeres también eligen volar, pero muy cerquita, otra gran porción de mujeres dice, yo elegiría el superpoder de ser invisible. Fíjense qué interesante, las mujeres estamos invisibilizadas en las organizaciones y aún así si pudiéramos elegir un superpoder, en muchos casos elegiríamos el poder de ser invisibles. Entonces, no tenemos que permitir que estos estereotipos se conviertan en creencias autolimitantes, tenemos nosotras también que revisar nuestras propias creencias, prejuicios que muchas veces nos están frenando en una carrera o en un desarrollo profesional. El primer paso para mejorar habilidades de liderazgo es conocernos muy bien, y en ese sentido yo les quiero compartir 5 herramientas muy concretas de autoconocimiento y planificación que ustedes pueden utilizar para conocerse mejor y para planificar mejor sus estilos de liderazgo. Primera herramienta, describirse. ¿Cuáles dirías que son 3 atributos que usarías para describirte? Segunda pregunta, ¿crees que son los mismos atributos que usarían otras personas para referirte a vos? Si tienen la oportunidad de contactarse con personas que hayan trabajado con ustedes, con compañeras de estudios, con personas de mucha confianza que trabajen con ustedes ahora, para preguntarles si tuvieras que definirme en el escenario laboral con 3 atributos o describirme como líder con 3 atributos, ¿cómo me describirías? Sería muy importante que ustedes sepan cómo se autodescriben, pero también que vean cómo son percibidas por los demás en sus funciones de liderazgo. Segunda herramienta, conocerse. Piensen, ¿cuál es mi valor agregado? ¿Qué es lo que yo le pongo a este liderazgo o traigo a mi liderazgo que es diferente de lo que hacen o traen las demás personas? ¿En qué soy realmente buena? ¿Lo estoy comunicando bien? ¿Lo estoy comunicando de la manera más clara posible? Tercera herramienta, planificar, planificar, planificar. ¿Dónde les gustaría estar en el mediano plazo? Cada vez que yo empiezo a trabajar con un hombre y le pregunto, ¿dónde te gustaría estar dentro de 3 o 5 años? Siempre me dice algo. A mí me gustaría ser CEO, a mí me gustaría ser líder de mi partido político, a mí me gustaría ser senador. Cuando les pregunto a las mujeres, ¿dónde te gustaría estar dentro de 5 años? Muchas veces la respuesta es donde la organización más me necesite. No es que no tengamos que ser funcionales a las organizaciones, pero sí es importante que nosotras tengamos definida una ambición propia, nos tracemos un camino propio. Entonces, piensen en 3 objetivos muy concretos y para cada objetivo una acción concreta que podrían comenzar a realizar desde ahora para acercarse a esa meta. Hay un método que es muy bueno y que ayuda a esto, que es el método SMART, que básicamente la S corresponde a specific, es decir, elijan objetivos bien concretos y bien específicos en los que les gustaría alcanzar. El objetivo tiene que ser medible, tienen que tener algún indicador de progreso para ver si con las acciones que están haciendo se están acercando a ese objetivo. Tiene que ser asignable, en este caso, bueno, lo tenemos que cumplir nosotras mismas porque es para nuestro propio liderazgo. Tiene que ser realista, no pueden ser objetivos utópicos e inalcanzables. Y también una variable muy importante es el tiempo. ¿Cuál es el tiempo límite que yo me pongo para cumplir con este objetivo? Cuarta herramienta, midan periódicamente sus logros, pero no los midan con los criterios de éxito de los demás. Cada persona tiene que ser capaz de definir qué es el éxito para sí misma. Yo tengo clientas que sueñan con ser CEOs, tengo clientas que creen que su principal éxito sería fortalecer un equipo, y tengo clientas que creen que su principal éxito sería poder trabajar en una casa con vista al mar. Cada una sabe lo que es su indicador de éxito, ¿no? Pero lo que digo es, ¿qué sería para ustedes un logro profesional, político o personal? Y establezcan eso como una vara para la medición en sus avances periódicamente. Y una quinta herramienta fundamental es, por favor, no se olviden del networking en 3 niveles. Networking personal, es decir, las personas que conocemos porque fueron compañeras de estudio, compañeros de la clase de yoga, compañeros de cualquier tipo de actividad social, porque son profesionales de otras áreas, rompen la endogamia, rompen que todo el tiempo nos estemos vinculando con las mismas personas, ayudan a abrir nuestros mindsets para barajar distintas alternativas. Por supuesto, también hay que trabajar el networking cooperativo, es decir, mantener buenas relaciones con las personas que necesitamos para que las tareas del día a día fluyan en nuestros equipos. Y hay un networking estratégico, que es donde las mujeres más fallamos, que es el de relaciones con pares y altos directivos, y esto es fundamental para encontrar sponsors y para lograr romper los techos a partir de tener más visibilidad. Para finalizar y abrir el espacio para que dialoguemos, para que conversemos en los minutos que nos quedan, a mí me gustaría dejar 6 recomendaciones a modo de reflexión. La primera recomendación es que si les ofrecen un lugar, por favor, acéptenlo. No digan todavía no estoy preparada. Venzan el miedo, salgan de sus zonas de confort. Tenemos que las mujeres a incorporar la idea de que podemos aprender en el camino, que no vamos a estar solas, que vamos a tener equipos, que va a haber otras personas que nos van a poder orientar, que tenemos que aprender como los hombres a tomar ciertos desafíos. Si yo tengo un cliente hombre y le ofrecen algo muy desafiante, lo primero que pregunta es ¿a qué hora tengo que estar el lunes? ¿Qué día empiezo y a qué hora tengo que estar? ¿No? Cuando muchas veces se los ofrecen a mujeres con las que trabajo, dicen, ay, necesito pensarlo, dame un tiempo para que lo piense, y el problema es que cuando lo piensan y se deciden, ese lugar ya no está, y probablemente está ocupado por un hombre que además es más ineficiente o que estaba menos preparado que ella, ¿no? Sin embargo, bueno, nosotros a veces dilatamos la aceptación de los espacios y cuando los aceptamos ya no están disponibles. Segunda recomendación, pidan lo que desean en voz alta. Es importantísimo que no esperen a que suceda, que digan lo que realmente quieren, porque muchas veces nosotras confiamos en que si trabajamos bien y lo hacemos bien, se van a dar cuenta de hacia dónde queremos ir o lo que estamos soñando hacer y nos lo van a ofrecer. Y la realidad es que eso no funciona así, y que además muchas veces cuando no pedimos en voz alta, le damos la excusa a los demás para que nos digan, bueno, yo no te di esa posición de liderazgo porque nunca me dijiste que la querías, ¿no? Y a pesar de que sabemos que esa persona sabía que la queríamos, esa persona se va a escudar en que nunca lo dijimos. Entonces tenemos que aprender a pedir lo que queremos en voz alta. Tenemos que hacer todo lo posible por sentarnos a la mesa donde se discuten y se toman las decisiones, y no solo sentarnos, también participar, aunque sea decir una cosa, dejar algo cada vez que participamos en una mesa, y si no, como decía la primer congresista afrodescendiente de los Estados Unidos, si no te dan una silla, llévate una silla plegable. Es decir, las mujeres tenemos que empujar por abrirnos espacio en las mesas donde se toman las decisiones, participar en los comités donde se toman las decisiones, porque realmente nuestras voces tienen que empezar a ser escuchadas. Cuarto, aprender a poner límites y a decir que no. Aprender que no podemos complacer a todas las personas y que no podemos ser el comodín, la carta comodín que esté cubriendo las necesidades de todas las demás personas en la organización. Tenemos que aprender a elegir los proyectos y las personas con las que vamos a trabajar y aprender a decirle que no a lo que creemos que no nos va a sumar en ese camino de objetivos a mediano plazo que nos hemos trazado. Por eso es importante que antes hayan hecho el ejercicio de plantearse los objetivos a mediano plazo. Quinta recomendación, por favor, comuniquen y visibilicen sus logros. No alcanza con hacer un buen trabajo y esperar que los demás lo noten o nos recompensen espontáneamente. Tenemos que aprender a comunicar lo que hacemos, aprender a soplar nuestra propia corneta, tenemos que aprender a tocar nuestro propio tambor. Como me dijo hace poco una mujer muy inteligente en Costa Rica, las mujeres tenemos que aprender a cacarear nuestros logros, tenemos que aprender a comunicar, tenemos que salir de esta posición de decir, ay no, si comunico que lideré este proceso, o si comunico algún éxito que tuve, me van a juzgar, van a decir, ¿y ella quién se cree que es? ¿No? Bueno, las mujeres tenemos que salir de ese lugar y empezar a comunicar nuestros logros. Y una última recomendación para las que lo logran, rompen techos y llegan a ocupar posiciones de poder y de liderazgo, no sentirse el pájaro exótico, no sentirse la ave exótica, y sumar e impulsar a más mujeres en nuestros equipos. No solo porque es lo correcto, sino también porque la mayoría de las mujeres con altos perfiles públicos con las que trabajo me dicen que por la estructura que siguen teniendo las organizaciones, el poder suele ser un lugar muy solitario para las mujeres, y contar con otras mujeres aliadas en los equipos suele ser un excelente antídoto. Así que las invito a que nos pongamos manos a la obra. Les agradezco muchísimo que me hayan acompañado en esta primera parte de la presentación. Voy a dejar de compartir la presentación para escucharla.
Thank you, Virginia. This was an excellent presentation, and wow, it was excellent, and I'm very thankful for sharing all the recommendations and the tools.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You know, it's very typical that in many workshops, we all women say, oh my God, I have the 7 syndromes. I have them all.
I have a few. I'm telling you, yes, it and sometimes you just don't notice that you have it. So I'm glad that that we're here and that we have you to open our eyes and analyze ourselves. But yeah, I'm not gonna talk about me, but I will open the floor to the participants to see if
Thank you.
would like to share a story, if they have any questions, if they feel the same way that I felt when I heard the presentation. Anyone?
That's the thing. He's supposed to be a professional. His wife should not be involved, but even if yeah, I know. I'm reading the comments here at Zoom meeting, and oh, there is no sound on the English translation audio.
No,
so it
was working. I was listening to.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm reading a comment that made Karen Dunbar, and I totally agree with you, Karen. We are supposed, stereotypes make us believe that men are born to be professionals, to own the public space, that the public space and the political space and the organizational space and the careers are natural things for men to achieve. And we do not have the same representation, mental representation about women. So yes, he wins the Nobel Prize and he has a name, he has a degree, he's a professor, and she is just his wife. I believe that many people that read that story did not even notice that. And if you ask them, they believe that they are really egalitarian, they are not sexist, not biased, but we are all biased because this is a cultural bias. So I totally agree with you, Karen.
Oh, it seems like there's no sound on the English translation. Okay, it's working now?
Karen is hearing now, okay.
Anyone else can hear us? I think I hear some.
Yes, but I don't. Chefika opened her mic, but I can hear her.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. What I took away from your presentation was the way you spoke about the fact that women often do the work and then the men want to present the work. And I think that has been happening for a while now, even in offices where they have secretaries and stuff like that. Most of the time, the person in charge will tell the lady, you know, draft the letter and I'll sign it. And at the end of the day, their signatures are the ones that are placed on that particular letter. And for me, I think, as you said, we can do better than that. We can be the ones that are actually signing the letters if only we let go of certain things and, you know, learn to accept women as being professional and women as being smart. So I think we can do better than that. Another thing that I took away from your presentation and being in the field, the field whereby you have to adhere to the authority. I think it's very, very hard to say no sometimes, even though you know that really and truly what they want you to do is not in common with what you really want to do. It's very hard to say no because at the end of the day, it's a disciplinary organization and you don't want people to hold things over your head and say, oh, I delegated her and she decided that she's not going. So I'm going to be spiteful to her, right? So that is what happens sometimes. So that's
Yes.
my little...
Yes, of course. I also believe that we women can do much better than that. We are not just there to prepare the things for other people to show off with them. I think we should be the ones that prepare things and present things. So I totally agree with you. And regarding authority, yes, it's very hard because also culturally it's more accepted that men say no. And it's much more accepted when a man says, oh, really, that's not the kind of job where I feel comfortable or I would prefer to, you know, that's a normal conversation. But when women say no, it's just more shocking. So yes, it is very hard and we have to be very careful on the ways that we try to focus on tasks that we think that will add to build the road to those objectives we have without, of course, defying authority. I totally agree with you because if not, that you will be penalized for it. And that's something we don't want to, of course.
My question for you, how could you say no diplomatically?
You can, for example, you can offer to prepare someone to do that job. When sometimes I'm offered a job that I do not want to do, I say, well, you know, that's not just what I believe I want to do now most, but I can prepare a person for you to do it, and I will supervise that person. And sometimes it's a little more work for you, but in the long term, you did not deviate from the road that you are trying to build. So you can offer to train people to do that, or you can offer to supervise, or you can offer to be part of it, but not to be the one that performs that task.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
I think
you.
Karen Number would like to participate. Karen?
Hi, I'm here. The previous the young lady that just spoke there, I didn't get her name. I think from St. Vincent.
Virginia.
Right.
Oh,
She mentioned. She mentioned about women being secretaries, and your boss gave you something to draft, and they always want to sign. But in that field, I always believe that the boss sees you as you're working for them. You see, they always see the secretary as somebody in a lower capacity, in a lower position, and it happens everywhere. They see you in a lower position, and it's like, you know what, Karen is working for me. So Karen, you're working for me, so you have to do X, Y, and Z, and then just bring it to me. I'll proofread or whatever, and I'll sign. So you will never see a secretary's signature goes anywhere, because they just have to do what they have to do for the boss or even for the office that they work for. But the signature wouldn't reach anywhere. So I mean, I know she made the point there, but I don't think I'll ever see it happen.
Okay. I think that sometimes I agree with you. Women, we are very invisible in organizations. We do a lot of work. We think, we design, we work on planifications, and we do extraordinary jobs, and it's other person that shows off with it. So it's very hard, and I think that at a point we have to find little ways or strategies to make us visible, not just as the person assisting someone, but our value as workers. So I think that, for example, building networks with other women, it's a nice way of having people talking about how good you are at your work and the great ideas you have, and you are not saying it. It's just a friend of yours that is talking about you, and so the rest of the organization starts to look at you in a different way, not just as the person assisting someone.
Yes, true.
That's why networking is so important, because you need allies.
Yes, so true. And something else you mentioned, and it's a good takeaway when you said women must learn to accept position. Generally, women get opportunities, and because they're afraid to take risks, we are afraid to take risks. We always think the men could do the job better. We sort of deny it. But we have to learn to take a risk, because if I'm a secretary and I don't take a risk or I don't accept a certain position, then I remain one way. And everybody gonna come pass me down. Or maybe other ladies who may be interested in taking that risk will pass me down. And even men always feel they want to be on top, they will pass me down. I will always remain one way. But we ladies, we have to learn to take a risk and accept positions. And when you take that risk and you accept that position, you will learn in that position and get your way right up to the top.
Yes, I know. But you know why we are so afraid to take risks sometimes? First, because we have the pressure to be perfect, which is a ridiculous pressure, let me tell you. But second, because we are more punished than men if we make mistakes, because everybody's watching us, and when a man takes a position or takes a risk, everybody's assuming that he will do fine. And if he doesn't, well, something went wrong. But everybody is assuming that we are going to do a bad job. So if we don't do a good job, they don't think it's the situation. They blame it on us. So that's why we women are so scared of taking risk, and we think over it 100 times before deciding to take a risk, because the punishment it's greater on us than on men if we make mistakes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another question. We are almost ready to take our break, but maybe someone else would like to take the floor before we leave. Florita? There's also a question from Stacy Swift from Belize. I don't know if she...
yes. Good morning. A lot of times women are discriminated against, especially in leadership roles. Although they are qualified, it's also have to do with political interference. They should be a policy established for gender balance in every workplace and establish ratio. Also upward mobility based on qualifications and experience instead of gender. Yes, I agree. In every organization, Stacey, I agree with you. In every organization, we need formal rules, but also to watch the informal roles. Because every time I go to work on a workshop in an organization about inclusion and diversity, when I arrive, you know what's the first thing they tell me? Oh, that we have that problem solved. We have here's everything equal, and we don't have that problem. And if you look on paper, they don't. But really, when you start looking at the informal practices, you find that there are a lot of football tournaments for men, but not an equal opportunity of activities for women. Or, you know, many times informal practices are great barriers that make women invisible in organizations. So yes, you need policies, formal policies, but also to review all the informal policies of the organization.
I just want to add, are you hearing me from the
Yes,
we can hear you.
All right, so to just expand on that, currently we had a change in terms of administration because of politics. So a lot of females that held those positions, including the chair for the Belize Port Authority, our CEO, our ports commissioner, even the management team was affected by this. So at the Belize Port Authority, we have been affected in terms of women in leadership role being discriminated against, and it has a lot to do in terms of the policy, because there is no policy in place to say that there must be a gender balance. There must be a ratio in place to say so much women should be employed in the sector, and also because of their qualification, they're also being discriminated against. So, you know, have the room for the upward mobility, something in place that when the previous director or whosoever left, then you have whereby a woman or whosoever that is qualified could move up to that rank.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. We need that ratio. We need to take care of all that, because it's true that women enter the organizations at the same time as men, and the results we see is that we do not make the same progress. So there's something wrong there, and something that needs to be corrected. I agree with you.
I believe Ms. Florita has a question. Ms. Florita, would you like to close this forum with your question?
No, I just wanted to make a statement. You know, working with or at ports, you know, it's mostly a man's position or job. And I just had an experience. I got qualified on paper to operate a forklift at the port. And I decided, because of fear, I was like, you know, I'm kind of afraid to get on that machine and operate that machine. So my boss decided one day, well, we're going to try, you know, to operate the machine. Teach me how to operate the machine. And it didn't take long. I got, you know, my ego was boosted. And working along with some of the guys that normally do the forklift operating, you know, they stood back and they were like, oh my God, you know, she's operating this machine. And it's like men have this ego that women can't do what they do. But I've figured it out that women can do it just as good or better than men. That's all.
Of course, Purita, of course we can. And, you know, yes, there is a very, we call it toxic masculinity, you know, because they also believe their role and they also play that macho role. And so if you can do what they do, oh, where am I? Who am I? So you are challenging them. And that's why they have this big resistance, because they feel very challenged, because if they can think themselves from another point of view, if they can think themselves that their value is because they are great parents, because they are great partners, because they are wonderful job mates, because they are really, if they believe that their value comes from being a macho man, then you are challenging them. And so that's why we always, when we work in organizations, work with men and women, because women are not the problem, clearly. The problem are culturally related with what men built and made the organizations to be. So I agree. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We have finalized this session. Thank you so much. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we will resume in 10 minutes for our last session, which is woman in maritime domain with Ms. Audrey McNeil. See you in 10
Thank you, Lisbeth. I don't know which room do I have to go to now.
We will go to room 2, Virginia.
Room 2. Okay. I hope I find the link. If not, I'll ask you to send it to me.
I will.
If you can email it to me, I'll be sure that I'm entering the room.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
in
you
a
so
minute.
much, Lisbeth.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And we will combine in this room after that last session.
Thank you.
So you will have a little bit more, another opportunity to discuss and talk to Virginia in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Audrey?
Oh, hi, Liz. Who will be doing the slideshow for me?
Oh, Mauricio.
Oh, Mauricio, we meet. Thank you. So are you ready for us to?
Yes.
Oh,
everybody's back. So the floor is yours.
okay. And good afternoon and good morning for some of us to everyone in this breakout room. And this is your final presentation, Women in the Maritime Domain. Now, yesterday, we had a very empowering and encouraging morning session when we heard from our trailblazers recount their experiences and advice for women pursuing or already in the maritime sector. And today is your day to let your voices be heard. What we saw demonstrated yesterday was women who came, overcame, and conquered. And we realized that we all have our experiences, both good and challenging. And without facing the fact that we have challenges, we're not going to be able to chart a course forward so that we can overcome and conquer. So while we're going to ask you to comment on the challenges, we'll also be focusing on the solutions and recommendations. We know we still have many rivers to cross and that it is a work in progress, and there's no shame in that fact because we are seeing change. But always remember, we choose to challenge. So I'm going to start the presentation by first giving you an outline. Mauricio, you can start for me, please. Yes, I'm going to give you an overview of how we're going to approach this discussion. A lot of the issues are crossing over, of course, in the other two topics, and that's fine. So you got a chance to think about this and even to talk about some of what you learned in the previous ones that can be used, focusing on women in that maritime security as well as the maritime sector in general. So we're going to start by looking at the context. We'll kind of go through that. I think we're pretty familiar between today and yesterday with what the matters are for consideration, then the objectives, and then we head straight into the discussion segment. So we're looking at the challenges, women as assets, and careers in the maritime domain and how to attract all genders. From the previous group, I realized that 1 and 3 kind of roll into each other. So don't feel limited when you're commenting at all to stick to this in that order. If by talking about the challenges, you want to talk about the careers, that's fine, as long as we cover those areas. And then we have our conclusion. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is just reiterating what probably I've heard several times. The world is changing. A lot of the traditional roles that were considered careers for women or more suited for women are disappearing because we now have technology which is being embraced by companies because they're driven more by savings and the viability of their companies. And the first one that may come to mind is administrative assistants and secretaries are being replaced. People are asked to do their own planning and their booking and online, buses doing their own meeting requests. So we know that this is changing. So women now have to respond by pivoting in this economy where traditional jobs are disappearing. Well, there's growth in the maritime industry. There's the opening of new career paths. And I think Mona Saboda touched on that yesterday. We also have to look at the fact that women are being discriminated against in careers that are considered traditionally for men. And there's a need for us to find ways to overcome these barriers. And we also want your input. How can we change these negative attitudes toward women pursuing careers in maritime security and in the maritime sector in general? Next slide, please. So what are our objectives for the next half an hour or maybe 40 minutes? We want to identify the barriers which deter the entrance of women in the sector, the challenges which discourage them from pursuing these careers, the challenges that stifle growth within the sector, and of course, the solutions. How do we overcome them? How to improve the access of women to the sector. So we're going to identify the assets that women bring and how we can use these to become a part, to recruit women in the industry, identify them, see where they are an asset, and use that as a platform to recruit more women. We're going to also explore solutions to encourage more women to enter the sector. And then, of course, all that we discussed today, along with the other 2 sessions, will be collated. And then we're going to look at how we go forward in effecting change through joint effort. Next slide. So we're going to be exploring these issues under the following themes: challenges that women face in the sector, women as assets in the maritime security field, as well as the maritime sector in general, and how we go about attracting more women to pursue careers in the industry. Next. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to encourage as much participation as possible because that's how we're going to effect change. We have to hear your voices, and you have 2 options. You can talk in the chat if you'd like to say something and I'm not able to see your hand. You can message in the chat, and if anyone sees someone whose hand is raised, you can message in the chat, so I'll be aware of that. But to get you thinking on this matter of challenges facing women in the sector, I found 2 quotations. Unfortunately, I was not able in all cases to identify who we're going to attribute them to, but very powerful ones. The first one, and I'd like to bring attention to what the International Women's Day theme was for 2021. Generally, we had one in the Maritime organization as well, but the general one was choose to challenge. This is very powerful because it recognizes that although we have gone so far, we still have more further to go. So we are not going to retreat, we're going to challenge. So 2 quotations worth considering. 1, women need to outperform men to be taken seriously. That's an observation. And another, success in the maritime field is much more about using your intellect than your muscles. So think about those 2, and we're going to start getting your thoughts on these challenges. Next slide, please. Thank you. So these are the responses we'd like to cover, these 4 areas. To what extent do you agree that there are challenges within the sector stifling the growth of women? What has been your experience? What is contributing to the challenges? And what are some solutions to breaking down these barriers? So you can either raise your hand or indicate in the chat and tell us a little bit about yourself before, and then you can give us your experience or your thoughts. So who would like to start? No takers? Am I missing any hands? Everybody's quiet.
Hi, Audrey.
Hi. Hi, Cydia. How are you?
Not bad, thanks. You?
I am good, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. Thank you so much for opening up the floor.
Welcome, no problem. All right, for me, well, I'm a part of the Jamaica Defence Force Coast Guard. What I realized, it would have been said in previous meetings, that men egos, their ego is what is the real problem. They are cultured a certain way, they are nurtured a certain way, so they so believe that they're more superior than women. But what I find is that when you let your work speak for you, then you find that you get the respect that you're due. So far, in my institution, I can't say I would have faced a lot of challenges. And the good thing about the JDF at this point is that we have now what we call the gender optimization policy. So whatever is done, women are definitely included. So there's no such rule as for men only in the JDF. So my experience so far is not such a bad one.
And Cydia, we want not just the bad experiences. Of course, we want the good ones because it's also a teaching for everyone else. You speak about within it, you have within your organization certain policies that would help. You want to repeat the name of that policy you just spoke of? That you say that encourages gender equality or gender. Yeah. You can repeat for us?
It is called a gender optimization policy. It's fairly new, but it is very effective. So find out women are now included in everything. And it is a CDS mandate that whatever is done within the organization, women must be included. So that's a good thing.
Excellent. And in the previous session, I remember reading from some resources that a lot of the norms that we've become accustomed to, that, refer to, that men believe that it's certain careers are for women, those men are now transitioning out because they're older, maybe, and therefore this is an opportunity for women to take on these careers. This is a time for us to encourage more persons to take on these careers, because it is believed that it is now the time we'll have more a more open mind towards women in what was traditionally considered to be male dominated. So that was one opinion that I'd read in some of the resources. Thanks for your contribution, Cydia. Anyone else would like to comment on the challenges, possibly your experience, solutions? Am I missing any hands? No? Well, maybe I can call. I have Skeeter from Jamaica with me online. Skeeter, maybe this is an appropriate time for you to share a little of your experience, which speaks to challenges and how you have been able to handle those.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Skeeter McKenzie. I'm the security manager and port facility security officer at the Port of Montego Bay, and I'm directly employed to the Port Authority of Jamaica. So I actually did grow up in the maritime industry. I entered just about 16 years ago with no maritime experience. And that's one of the things I really do appreciate about the Port Authority and the industry. It allowed me to have a foot in, to have a seat at the table, even without the experience of working in the maritime sector. And so I grew up in the field. I started out in surveillance, went into screening, and I went into training until I became deputy PFSO. I went to serve as well at a different facility in Falmouth, and then came back to Montego Bay as a security manager. So I really did grow up here in the security field. And one of the things that has followed me throughout all of those steps, those moves within the authority, is you are never allowed to forget that you're a woman. Yes, and so there are times when your opinion is maybe, it's a comment by the way, it doesn't seem to resonate, it doesn't seem to take root, and it's almost sometimes like you're brushed off. But one of the things I really do like is that I can always find examples around me of other women who have succeeded. And it's good that we have a forum like this so that persons who may be at a different stage of their development can realize that the challenges are not unique to you, but it is how you then deal with those challenges, how you grow, how committed you are, how much you dig your heels in. And that's where we want to look at the solutions that Audrey mentioned. We acknowledge the challenges, but then what do you do with them? Do you wallow in self-pity? One of the things that I do, and what I encourage others to do, is even though you don't see the opportunity, if you are not yet in sight of that opportunity, prepare yourself for it, because you force persons to reckon with what you bring to the table. If they look around and they see no one else offering what you offer, and you have prepared yourself sufficiently well, you force them to acknowledge that yes, you do have a contribution to make. You are an asset. And so it does take a lot of investing in self. And as I said, even before you see where you're going, you prepare yourself for it. And that's one of the things that I really do encourage, and that I like, and that we do have the opportunity to participate. And the Port Authority does invest in its human resource. And I really do appreciate that. I can just share quickly with you an experience I had where I was referred to as a woman government in a very disparaging way. The person said, I don't like woman government. And what that means is he does not want to, he doesn't want to have to work with a female leader. And I suspect it's because we bring different assets. We bring a different mindset to the discussion. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that, yes, we are different, but rather than to be disrespectful or to become like one of them, we maintain our composure. And eventually, even it might take different time for different persons, they will come to respect you, because the first thing you do is you show them what you stand for. You first respect yourself, and they come to acknowledge that you are more than just a glance down from your eyes. That's where they like to steer when they look at you. You are more than this. And so you have to set the tone as to what you represent and be consistent, and just prepare yourself for the opportunities. And I find that works well. And never forget that the men, they like to know that we respect them, not because you are in charge or because they report to you. Doesn't give you the autonomy to have a heavy-handed approach. Allow them to have a say. Allow them to know that you value their opinion and that you're not here to exert your authority on them without respect. And I find that when you can forge a coalition, and when you get them to work with you and to realize we just want the same objective, then they realize that those horns that you had, they were a figment of their imagination, and you're someone that they can really work with.
Thank you so much, Skeeter. And what stands out from what you said, I like that. Prepare yourself for the opportunities.
Yes.
Look down the road and you may see, and you say, I don't think that will ever happen. This man, he's young, he's never going to leave the job. No, invest in yourself and be ready for the opportunities. Excellent. And I thank you for that. And as well, being a part of these forums where we meet other women who have overcome and conquered and are still working on the challenge. As the theme said, we still choose the challenge. It's very encouraging. You're not alone. You realize that you are not alone, and therefore you can do this. So I really appreciate that. I want to share a few things too that we got from our outstanding and empowering women yesterday, about some of the things that cause us to face these challenges. Stereotyping of women, they say women are emotional and irrational. So by putting us in that box, they're less likely to see us as fitting in the maritime space. And this happens in every career for that matter. That is a stereotyping and one of the misconceptions. Another misconception, we don't want to get dirty. We don't want to go through physically challenging things. And another one, which fortunately for myself and Skeeter was not used against us, not accepting non-maritime training and skills. So there are women who come with other assets, which is going to lead us into that second point. And because it's not aligned with what seems to be a maritime career, you are pushed aside. And that, unfortunately, is one of the challenges and the barriers. And it is a misconception that we cannot fit in. And also, when you find yourself in careers that require some amount of physical, a lot of muscle, that there are men now who on the other side think they're your protectors. They're always trying to save you from doing that or protect you when we are quite capable of doing that. Another barrier is lack of the support of men. We cannot move forward without men being a part of our support. So we need to engage those who are our allies. I spoke to a few women in leadership in preparation for this forum and the roundtable. And a common theme running through it was when you have allies, not only among women, but men, they encourage your growth. And that's when things tend to happen in terms of movement, upward movement. So we now have to look at how can we engage men and let them realize that we are going to bring something to the table. We're going to make this better. And another misconception is that women will not turn up if they have family obligations. That's not always so. There are many women in the group here today who have families and who are very successful, and they're able to balance. And a lot of the balancing is also dependent on the policies that exist in your organization. So maybe to achieve this balance, we may have to look at what are the policies, the HR policies that are limiting women. Because even now at this time, men are asking for paternity leave. They're becoming more involved in their families. So it's kind of leveling the playing field. So this takes us, thank you for your contribution, Cydia and Skeeter. And we also got some good suggestions as to how we can do this from the first group. But this now takes us to the other section, speaking about women as assets. Could you give us the next slide, please, Mauricio? And as usual, I'd like us to look at two quotations that I found among the resources that I was looking at. If we want our society to flourish, we need to engage all of its talents, all of its human resources at all levels. So of course, this quotation means that we cannot ignore or ignore our women in terms of bringing them into all careers. And the second one, women are the other half of society. And without them, like everything else, maritime will also be incomplete. So we're very important in every career and just as important in the maritime career. Next slide, please. So the question is, what assets do you identify that make women suited for a maritime security career and the sector in general? And how can these be marketed to open the way for more women to be employed in the sector and to increase advocacy for the recruitment of women in the industry, focusing on their assets? Is there anyone who'd like to comment on that? No takers? Okay, while you think about it, I'd like to throw out a few things that came out of our discussion yesterday. That women are calm and measured when dealing with women and children. And one of our women, trailblazers, who spoke yesterday, mentioned that sometimes in the maritime space, you end up having to deal possibly with refugees on the water, and you have women and children. And here it is that women are so suited for that. How about the fact that we're very observant? We multitask. These are some of the points that came out of the discussion earlier today. And our working attitudes. Is there anything anybody else would like to add? What you see as possibly our assets that would make us well suited for this career? What about your assets? What have you brought to this career? Skeeter, I noticed that you're... Would you like to start the ball rolling?
Yes, I will. One of the things that I believe that one of the things I bring to the table that I believe is taken as an asset. I do work a lot with contracted security officers. And one of the things that I do take time to observe is their expressions. How are they looking today? They may very well be going about doing exactly what is scripted, what the SOP requires. But can you identify when there is something on their mind, when they may not be paying as much attention to detail? They're just moving in route, just 1, 2, 3, like robotic. So oftentimes what happens with me is these officers will do something, or I observe something irregular in their emotional well-being, and I speak to them, and they will tell you things like, my hours are short, and so I cannot make rent, or I have to send my children to be with a family member. Now, this staff for me is somebody who is not focused. This is someone who can allow an intruder access because they're not paying attention. This is someone who may not see something irregular coming through our gates in a vehicle that they should have seen, because they're not focusing, because there is something underlying, something amiss, and it is affecting them emotionally. Due to the COVID challenges now, one of my officers, I had to ask for his HR to have some counseling with him, because he's just sitting and shaking his head. He's just not there. He's just not present. And we have to be able to identify when they are not well emotionally, because physically they will not perform. And I think it is one of the skills that a woman brings to the table, because we have to see these things also, even in our own family, in our own children, in our own siblings. They're too quiet, they're not eating, they're just not engaging, and you can transfer that skill into the workplace.
Thank you, Skeeter. Very, very good points that when you're handling the contracted security, even your own staff, as women, we tend to be a lot more, we have a sixth sense, and we are able to address matters like that in a compassionate way, in a very understanding way. And there are more and more women that are in the contract security field these days. So you're handling that, and that's a very good point. I'm still waiting if there's anybody else who would like to. I know you're probably a bit tired now, but so in the meantime, I'm going to share with you. I had asked a few women prior to coming on, women who are not, who have positions of responsibility, who have climbed the ladder, but who are not here with us. And one of our stars at the Port Authority, she said that Oh, she said that I believe my personality, my ability to get things done, attitude to work, and knowledge acquisition contributed to the level of support I received at the managerial and operational levels. I think we have a lot to learn there. So you get things done, you have a good attitude and knowledge. When you have knowledge of your job, that surpasses so much. Do not be afraid to keep searching, keep reading, keep knowing, and the respect comes. And she got a lot of support. I see a message in the chat from Shafika. Good going, Mrs. Mackenzie. You can solve a bigger problem by being so observant. Yes, and that's one of the assets that come with us as women. So I have another example of a port manager, PFSO, one of our ports. And she said that she led by example, performing some of the tasks herself. She said, I operate the Bobcat forklift. I use a shovel and broom at times. This is to demonstrate that I was not asking them to do what I could not. She said she used mentoring and coaching skills to earn respect. And women are very good at that. We're very good mentors and we are very good coaches. So she said, when she boarded vessels, the tension was high as crew from certain parts of the world due to culture didn't hide the fact that they were not comfortable with a woman. Let's see what her solution was. I dealt with this by remaining professional and persisted in getting the information required. What she also did was to carry other men along with her. I guess that's how she was able to get through. All right, so those are some good examples of how we can overcome some of these barriers. And I'll tell you a little too about some of the barriers that I've had to overcome in my journey. And one of those that I mentioned was the belief that because, oh, I have Karen Dunbar. Looking forward to hearing your contribution. Tell us a little about yourself, where you're
Thank you, Audrey.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Audrey. I'm from Grenada. My name is Karen Dunbar, and I work with the Immigration and Passport Department in Grenada.
Sure, so go ahead and share
Yes.
your thoughts and your experience.
Yeah, presently I'm a supervisor, and I was just thinking of when the young lady from was it Jamaica that was speaking? Somebody speaking about what the assets you bring to the organization.
Yes.
And I was thinking, because where I work here, I wouldn't say balanced, because there's a lot of females here that works with me, and I supervise really the office and stuff like that. I've been at the I used to be doing yachts and stuff in the maritime business and stuff when I'm immigration, doing maritime and stuff. But I'm not there no more. I'm at the office now. However, coming here to work with so many ladies, I mean, there are men as well. I realize I'm a mediator. I brought in terms of you want to mediate between the problems, because you know when you have a lot of ladies working with you, it always tends to have little problems and stuff. So I realize being here, one of my assets is being a mediator. Mediator, the supervisor, how you can remedy certain situations when it happens. Try to help them, maybe think a little differently, helping them to move forward, especially they're young and they may come in with a little personal problems from home or even, within the department itself. So I see myself as a natural a mediator. Also, I think one of my assets I have here as well is patience. They're saying patience is a virtue, eh? And
yes.
when you have to deal with certain staff and they don't understand, and then you may meet irritated customers, and then you have to be careful how the staff deal with them. You have to have patience with them as well, because sometimes the complaints come and you might want to think a certain way, but you just have to have patience.
Yes.
Deal with them in a correct way. I mean, yes, the men as well, they may, because despite you supervising, you're not only supervising ladies, you supervise men as well. And you still have to have patience with men because, men tend to be more rugged than the ladies and they tend to say things differently than the ladies, and sometimes it depends on what they say. They may come somewhat sarcastic, and then, they come to you and then you have to sort of, deal with that themselves. Also, I think another asset I have, if I should say, is planning. What I do, I try to organize as much planning as much as possible in terms of getting the staff to come together, the activities together, bringing a smile on everybody's face, even going out. I don't even know how to explain all this, but I think I'm talking a little too much.
No, you're not. No, please, because I think, Karen, that we're now thinking, what assets do I bring? By your expressing, you're also helping us to.
And I think I'm a multitasker. I love to multitask. I plan, I coordinate, I coach, I mentor, I there is so much, but at least I think I'm okay, doing a good job, and there are a lot of more maybe I'm doing that I cannot even think about. Sometimes my staff look at me and they say, "Oh, Miss Dunbar, we can come to you at any time. You could help." Because sometimes you have your staff here, and somebody mentioned it earlier on. They're not paid as you. They're underpaid, and sometimes the distance. So you want to help as well financially because they trust you because of you will talk to them and you deal with them. And you can relate to them and they can relate to you, they trust you. So, they listen to you and they take advice from you and you help them and, so many, yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure that there are a lot of others in this group who are probably just thinking, what do I really bring as an asset? So even where I'm still inviting others to share their thoughts, although I think we're running out of time. But if this question just gives you time to think about it, then that's good. If I'm not seeing your hand and you'd like to say something, it would be good if you wrote in the chat. But can you think, how would you use these assets in recruiting? One in the previous group, someone said that when you are in a position to recruit, identify. You can mute for us, Karen. You can mute. Yeah, no problem. Okay, thank you. Yes, you could use these identified assets that are suited to this particular job and give it some priority in the recruitment. And I think that's a very good idea. Okay, in the interest of time, I think we need to move on. So the next slide, please, Mauricio. Okay, so we're now looking at how to attract women to the sector. And there are two quotations again. One was, you need to see it to be it. And the other one spoke about the importance of awareness and opportunities. Next slide, please. Yeah, the next slide, please, Mauricio. Thank you. So, to what extent do you agree that there are difficulties attracting women to the sector? What is your experience? What you think is responsible for the reluctance of women to pursue careers, and some solutions? Is there anyone who would like to comment? If I'm not seeing your hand, you could just put a message in the chat. Anyone with any suggestions? Okay, while I wait for you to gather your bravery. It has been said that there's a lack of knowledge by a lot of people of the variety of careers that are available to women in the maritime sector, which is true. So we have to look at awareness. How can we make more persons, young women, aware of the opportunities? Any suggestions there? Any ideas? Okay, going once, twice. Okay, all right. So let me share with you some of the ideas that we got. How about career, having career days, that when there are career days at schools, that we can make those of us who are, we might be invited by schools to come in. Okay, Loretta, would you like to, I notice you did do that, but we'd love to hear from you. Loretta McKay. We'd like to hear your voice. You can unmute and share what you shared in the chat, if you don't mind.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I
You're
believe
welcome.
for us here in the Bahamas, there are very few women in maritime, except for some of our officers who are part of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. They're responsible for policing our borders. So other than that, I would suggest that we make this a part of our school curriculum. And we have a campaign where you can have a team go out into the schools. You can have a media platform, other platforms that we can engage persons and sensitize them to the possibilities in the maritime field.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your contribution on that. Made a note of that. Any other suggestions? Don't be afraid. Hi, Cydia.
Hi, Audrey. How are you? So what well, for my organization, what we normally do is invite schools to come. And as you mentioned, career expos, we try to we try to send females to most of these institutions when we're having the expos. And we find now that we have a lot of females now at the Coast Guard. Apparently we have more female officers now at the Coast Guard than usual, which is a good thing. And I want to touch on something that Skeeter said earlier.
Yes.
Sometimes it's how we as female in the industry carry ourselves, how we go about doing our work, letting our work speak for itself. You find that you become a role model to somebody and they want to join the institution and they want to be good because they see that it can be done. And the whole stigma of only females here because some male in higher power looking out for them, those days are over with at my institution. And that is one of the things that I appreciate so far. So we as females in the industry just need to be role models to these new persons coming in so they can emulate whatever and say that it is okay to be strong. So while we will be labeled emotional and we are very rational beings, and I just want to let the other females know that it's okay to be strong. There's nothing wrong with being strong.
Excellent advice. And I think yours shows the result of the work. Having gone to the schools and sending females, what has happened? You're seeing more female recruits. And coaching and mentoring, very important. When females come in, they will meet some resistance. So you prepare them, you become their mentors, you coach and you mentor. Thanks for that, Cydia, because that is what has worked. And we really appreciate that. Shafika, would you like to speak? You have a very good point here. You say we have visits from preschools, secondary schools. We also host a summer program for these tours. Women are the ones leading the tours on the base. Would you like, could we hear your voice?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, nice to see you. Tell us, you want to give us a little background? Who is Shafika?
Okay, my name is Shafika Diamond. I have been in the Coast Guard for 12 years. I am attached to the administrative department currently. Okay, reference to your question about how can we attract women in the sector. And what we do at the Coast Guard base is, as I said in my text, we normally have visits from preschools, we have visits from secondary schools, and we also host what we call a youth summer program. And one of the things that happen when they come to the base is that most of the time the women are the ones that will take the children around, and they will show them, the different departments, and they will show them the engines and the boats, and even with the summer program. Yes, with the summer program now, what we encourage them to do also is that the women will have to teach them boat handling sometimes. So they will realize that women are not only for the offices, a women are not only to stay on the base, but they actually have a role in going out on the high seas also. So they got a hype from that, especially the ladies. They got a hype from seeing the women helms in the vest and stuff like that.
Excellent. And how has that been? I don't know how long you've been doing this, but are you reaping the rewards of this effort? Are you, that's how Cydia was saying that in the Jamaican Coast Guard, they're seeing more females applying and actually they're on the base. How have you started to reap the rewards of your efforts yet?
Actually, yes. If you would go through the list of females that are currently on the Coast Guard base right now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you would realize that some of them would have actually gone through the youth summer program. So
excellent.
We are
tried and proven.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, our time is up, and I think that a lot of our participants are echoing the thoughts and the opinions of the rest of the group that may have been listening. At the end of this, we will do a little summary as to lessons learned and to share with everyone. It was my pleasure being your facilitator and sharing some things with you. Just as a last words I wanted to share was based on my own experience. I found that there's one of these, we would call it misconceptions, that if you're not a security or a maritime person in terms of your education and skills, that you cannot enter the maritime security field or the maritime sector at any time. I defied that because I left the airline industry and came into the maritime sector, and it's been 15 years. And it was the assets that I brought from my previous experience that I was able to use to make the ISPS program be where it is now. So that is definitely one of the misconceptions that we have to get rid of and open for women who want to pivot, change, move into the maritime career. And I have also been able to use some of my skills, or I should say my assets, to help even my male counterparts. So I think hearing from you just continues to strengthen what we have been saying from the start. We can do it. We must continue to choose to challenge. We are not to retreat. And we must remember that we can overcome, we can conquer one step at a time. And being in a forum of this nature is very encouraging. Meeting the women who have had these experiences, have stayed the course, and have conquered is very encouraging for everyone in here. And remember that women in general have this experience. So also engage other women if you need encouragement. Engage others who are made a success in spite of all the barriers and challenges. So thank you all. And I think I hand over to Lisbeth.
Thank you so much, Audrey. It was a great presentation. Can we give, at this point, the participants that are in room 2 are going to join us. So I will ask if we can wait for them for another 5 minutes, and perhaps we can take a 5-minute break. And I'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Hola.
Hola. Okay. This way. Audrey, are you back? Matilde?
I'm here.
Great. Okay. Well, welcome back to our main room. I hope that you all had an enriching session in all the forums and took advantage of the experts, lessons, and recommendations. And now, I want to ask our facilitators, Ms. Betilde Muñoz, Director of the Department of Social Inclusion, to join us and continue with our takeaways of the session.
Sure.
Thank
I'll
you.
be happy to share. I believe we had a very rich discussion, both in terms of experiences, anecdotes, situations that this group of distinguished female leaders have had in performing their jobs, as well as interesting proposals for strategies in terms of ensuring inclusion and diversity, and mainly to empower oneself in professional work environments. So, but if I had to summarize some of the takeaways, I would probably highlight for starters, or first, the consensus that women indeed face resistances and obstacles in moving up through the ladder of leadership within organizations, and this sector is not the exception. It happens in the maritime and security sector too. The consensus that women usually have to work harder, double, triple, to obtain the same leadership positions as their men. And we also had concrete situations of when proposals made by women are ignored, or situations, perhaps not of sexual harassment per se, but this tension and labor harassment situations, or not harassment, but situations in which women are not perceived the same as men. And I probably, it was a common denominator in the other, the conversations that took place in the other forum. We also, a second thing that I would highlight in terms of takeaways was the very interesting strategies that different women who participated in the sessions described worked for them in terms of being, exerting their leadership and strengthening their assertiveness to exercise their role. We discussed the technique of amplification, in other words, finding allies, both male and female, beforehand in situations in which women are making proposals as a way to highlight their contributions. We also talked about the need to have difficult conversations when these situations that happen and that as women we don't appreciate happen, in terms of addressing and hopefully resolving the issue in the future. The need to not compromise our dignity and principles as professional women, and this is something that was a common denominator in the strategies proposed. And then another one, very concrete, that dealt with developing processes, developing manuals, institutionalizing processes and procedures so that we reduce instances of our leadership being questioned, and especially if we base this leadership in our mandates in very factual things that relate to our professional responsibilities. And then I would close with a third main, or actually two main takeaways that probably have to do with lessons. And I also want to thank Audrey, who joined the last group and the last discussion, which was also a part of the conversations in the previous one, that had to do with being our own best professional self as the best strategy to eliminate resistance and to overcome obstacles to women's leadership in the workplace. To continue strengthening ourselves, our path of leadership, our skills, and our own professional self, because this is the end results, right? Orient our performance to results, and this is the best way to combat the resistances that we may face. And on the other hand, and I really appreciated the need for us as women to pay it forward. right? To ensure that the younger women who are part of our teams or that we see in other areas or angles of the same organization that we work on also have opportunities, also are given a voice, and that somehow we also assume the role of coaching them to ensure that, you know, that they can also develop and can also assume leadership positions same as us. So this would be the summary of the discussions that we had in the previous forums. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Batilde. Regina, would you like to share with us your takeaways and recommendations?
Okay, thank you very much, Lisbeth. And I think that in the workshop today, we dealt with many subjects, but I would say the main ones were the existence of unconscious biases and stereotypes that associate leadership with male but not with female traits, and that fact translates into organizations in very, very concrete barriers as the ceilings, walls, labyrinths, and cliffs and crystal cliffs that are very difficult obstacles that women have to overcome to get to leadership positions. We also reflected on 7 syndromes that I frequently encounter that we women suffer in the organizations because we internalize those biases and those stereotypes, and that affects us. I also proposed 5 tools of self-knowledge and planification that may help to strengthen our leaderships. And we closed thinking about 6 general recommendations that I think that can help empower our leaderships. But to end the session, I would like to comment 2 additional obstacles and make 1 call to action. The first obstacle that I would like to address is that, and it's an obstacle that we talk very little about, that it's that most women in organizations are evaluated by men. So men have a conception of leadership very related with decision making, with a very directive view of leadership, and unconsciously they are biased to associate those characteristics or traits with men but not with women. So there's a big obstacle because we will be evaluated by men that will be not knowingly favoring other men because they think they have the traits that leadership needs to be performed efficiently. The second obstacle is that even when a woman breaks the glass ceiling and gets a leadership position, there's a catch-22 in there, because if they are very directive or assertive, they will be cataloged as bossy or aggressive. But if they are more reserved or cautious, they will be characterized as passive or indecisive or inefficient. So if they show hard leadership skills, they will be labeled as masculine and unpleasant. But if they show soft leadership skills, they would be judged as they lack the hard leadership abilities. So what I mean is, during centuries and until today, stereotypes and biases had played a role favoring and legitimating male leaderships in organizations. So this is why I make a call to action, and the call to action is we have to work to change the tale. We have to change the narratives, because it's been proven in many studies that for example, the imposter syndrome is more frequent in those organizations and organization cultures that are very biased, or networking is easier for men in organizations because most network activities have been thought by men. So they are not as accessible to women as they are for their male counterparts. So I invite you to actively participate and change the story. And we don't need to change women. We need to change our working environments. We need to change our working spaces to make them more just and more egalitarian. And I think that changing the narrative, it's a crucial element to make organizations understand once and for all that leadership has no gender. Thank you.
Audrey, would you like to go next? Thank you, Regina.
Okay, so I think that some of the things that were identified on the challenges women face is also covered in the other two groups. So I'm going to focus on the solutions that and things that we were able to identify in the other two areas: women, a valuable asset, and how to attract women to the maritime domain. So one of the suggestions, and these are all suggestions that came from participation, that skill is not gender, and that therefore you're gonna show women as skill trainers. There was one example of one of our participants who said that she is the trainer in her area, so that others can see that a woman has skills, and they see her in action. So that was a solution, showing women in action as a way to emphasize that skills are not gender related. Another solution to combating all these barriers, mentoring and coaching women who enter male-dominated career to handle challenges. So women within these areas can become mentors and coaches and help women who are new to navigate as well as to grow and develop. Another suggestion that came out of this was recognizing that the challenges that we identified are universal. They are not peculiar to the maritime space. Therefore, we should engage women from other careers, talk to them, hear what their encounters were and some of their solutions. And this will also help us as we move forward. Men can also be our allies, as we cannot do it alone. So we had experiences of women who found it much easier being in organizations where they had their leaders as men were also allies. And we can also look to engaging men to be our allies in this, in removing some of the barriers. Another participant spoke about the fact that those in the maritime career, how much do we talk to our families about what we do? I mean, that's a start. Promote awareness about these careers, talk to them, and that the younger generation will hear and see. And that's another start. And as I'm saying, I'm kind of combining attracting the genders as well as women as a valuable asset, but I'm focusing more now on attracting women to the careers in the maritime space. Career days at schools, use that to promote the careers for women, and do this by using visuals, pictures, videos. All of these things are available on the IMO resources and in other resources, not necessarily within the maritime sector. Because there was a quotation I used, you have to see it to be it. So we see nurses, doctors, policemen, lawyers, all these other careers are in front of us. But how many of our young women see the maritime career? So help them to see it. Help them to see how women are performing in these areas, even in careers that were once believed to be only for men. Field trips. Field trips is another one that has worked, where they observe women working, maybe Coast Guard, or and they actually see the careers in action. For St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Jamaican Coast Guard representatives, they're actually reaping the rewards of these tried and proven methods, because they're seeing more women come in, and these are the things that they did. I think the subject about the assets that women bring to the sector caused some to probably just start thinking about it. What are the assets? And we had a few participants between both, and we got comments like, we are good at negotiating, we dispel conflicts, we multitask, we're good organizers and managers, we give attention to detail. And what we can do, having identified what we bring to the table, then when we are actually the recruiters, we too can assess how important some of these qualities are in the particular job. So that can help in the recruitment process and give some of these priority. They may be more important than having a maritime background, because you can learn, but these are skills that come naturally, you know, so we could use that. A very good point made by one of our participants is to prepare yourself for future opportunities by investing in yourself. So when the opportunities arise, you won't be overlooked. And I think that supports what Virginia was saying. I think it was Virginia, about our, about who we are, our professional selves. And Batilda might have said that as well, but invest in knowledge, knowing your job and knowing it well, being a resource. And when we have the knowledge, keep learning, keep investing. I mean, when the right time comes, you won't be forgotten. You know, that is when you are known now for who you are, not gender, but your job knowledge. And I think that was it. Another, someone suggested, which is a good suggestion. How about advocating for some areas of maritime, or of certain maritime careers to be in the school curriculum? That's something to look for in the future, how we can get persons to think about this as a career. I think that about sums up what we gathered from our forum, our roundtable.
Okay. Well, thank you, Audrey. And please allow me at this time again to extend my gratitude to the three of you for sharing your expertise and providing fundamental recommendations to solve these important issues regarding women, gender equality, and empowerment in the maritime and port security domain. Thank you for the participants for sharing with us your remarks today. And before we close for the day, I want to thank all of you for your patience and cooperation through these breakout sessions. I recognize the necessity to change room may cause a little bit of confusion, and I will continue to work with the IT team to address this limitation and provide a easy method next time. And thank you to our IT team that was with us in every step of the way. Also, I hope to see you, all of you, on Friday for our third and last day, which includes a session for lesson learned and best practice by a representative from International Maritime Organization, IMO. We also will have a panelist from the British Virgin Islands and a panelist from Trinidad and Tobago. And our conclusion and recommendations will be provided by Ms. Audrey McNeil. So you will see her again. You will have the pleasure to see her again. She's from Jamaica. And I would like to close by saying this quote, let's break those crystal ceilings. Let's see ourselves as a valuable asset. Prepare yourself to say yes to the opportunity. And a quote that I heard yesterday from a panelist that is stuck in my head. And this quote came from Ricky Lambert. She say, let me show you what I'm capable of. I love that phrase. Thank you, and have a great afternoon. And thank you for the time and for being here with us today. And one more time, thank you to the government of UK for making this possible. Have a great day.
Before we leave, excuse me, can we please turn our cameras on so we can take a picture? Sorry to bother you all. I think this is a great opportunity to have a picture of all of us. Just for a quick minute. Let's wait until everybody puts their cameras on. And I'll let you know. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Let me change of page we have because we have so many people. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for everything. It's been great having you all. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, gracias. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Gracias. Qué lindo verte,
Bye-bye.
Betica.
Igual, un abrazote.
Muchas gracias.
Bye.